scandal, Alabama's taking extra precautions ahead of Monday's CFP semifinal game. Several Crimson Tide players saying they can't take film home and watch it on their own time. They have to watch it at the practice facility. College Game Day host Reese Davis.
These two teams in Pasadena are the two that people hate the most. Alabama for two reasons. One, because they've won so much, and Michigan because of all of the Connor Stalions sign-stealing stuff. So, this is going to be fascinating theater, whether you're a Michigan or Alabama fan.
Reese Davis on Unsportsmanlike, Wolverines Crimson Tide, Monday 4 Eastern, ESPN Radio and ESPN. NBA Suns guard Bradley Beal returns from a right ankle sprain tonight versus the Hornets.
Hey, it's Michelle Smallman from Unsportsmanlike. I just want to wish everyone a happy and healthy holiday and a happy new year. We'll see you in 2024. It's Unsportsmanlike, 6 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge Studios.
Let's ride.
Welcome into a Friday edition of After Further Review, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar. Musso in for Moscona. One more day this week. Last AFR of 2023. Next time we come to you, well, that'll be next Tuesday after LSU's bowl game against Wisconsin, and it will be 2024. Casey Gaines and Paul O'Neill along for the ride today, and we have a lot to get to. Brian Kelly met with the media about an hour, 2 hours ago or so, updated the status of Lance Heard. We'll get into that momentarily. Talked about some bowl prep stuff, too, that we'll touch on. Bill Bender is going to join us in the next segment, preview the college football playoff semifinals, of course, the Rose Bowl and the Sugar Bowl. Wilson Alexander will head to Tampa and talk to the beat reporter from the Advocate for LSU and get a scene setter, get his thoughts on some of what Brian Kelly had to say and thought or two on the game. We will step away from football for about 10 minutes or so today at 4:30 to talk to Jake Madison. The Pelicans got a win last night and kicked off a 5-game homestand with that win. They got a big game with the Lakers coming up on New Year's Eve. So a quick note there. Of course, Denver Harris entered the transfer portal. We got to give you final thoughts on the Saints game and, of course, the Bowl. There's a ton to get to here today. So let's hop right into it. And again, like I said, we will start with Brian Kelly's remarks earlier this afternoon regarding a plethora of things, but I think of utmost interest and what people want to talk about the most is Lance Heard. So take you back to Wednesday, obviously, and that was when Shea Dixon of On 3 was the first to report it, that Lance Heard did not travel with the team to Tampa for the bowl game. The report also came after Brian Kelly's media availability that day, so nobody was able to ask him about it then. We mentioned it briefly here. Today, Brian Kelly, it was the joint press conference with him and Luke Fickell, both on stage at the same time. And that was one of the things Kelly was asked about the status of Lance Heard and why he wasn't with LSU.
Yeah, I think we're going to have those conversations. I think he's looking at his role at LSU, evaluating it. There's been some conversations. So we're taking some time. We'll re-engage and have some more conversations after the game. But I think it's a good time right now for us just to focus on those guys that are with us right now, and then we'll pick up the conversations with him and his family after the ball game.
All right, so I don't really know if anything that he said there is really going to be shocking to many. I mean, when you hear that, a former 5-star freshman offensive tackle who played in all 12 games this year, got a start, but mainly in a backup role, didn't travel with the team, your immediate thought goes to, all right, well, he's probably looking elsewhere. He wants to transfer. And when Brian Kelly there tells you he's evaluating his role at LSU, that further solidifies that thought, I think, that many have had, right? It's important to note that Lance Heard is not in the transfer portal. He is still a member of the team. He's just not He just didn't make the trip because he's evaluating things. What does all of that mean, though, kind of going forward? There's two ways to look at that. One is, okay, he evaluates, decides, I still like where I'm situated here. LSU, they have the conversations with him, and he's back. The other is he looks for another destination. When you hear him evaluating role, you immediately assume playing time, right? And you should. There is a path for Lance Heard to get on the field next year at LSU as a sophomore. There's a path. But some things kind of have to happen, right? LSU, regardless, next year, if everybody stays healthy, you're going to have Will Campbell, you're going to have Emory Jones, you're going to have your two starting tackles. Regardless, there is a way that you have 4 of your 5 starting offensive linemen back. Garrett Dellinger has a decision to make. He has an extra year he could use. He could be back. Well, there's your left guard. Miles Frazier, same thing. There you go. The one I mean, Charles Turner accepted an invite to the Senior Bowl. He's going to go start his professional career, and he will play his last game Monday and move on. So you'll have to replace that. But they're really high on DJ Chester. I guess in a way, could you convert maybe Emory Jones to center and have Lance Heard that way? Maybe, but I don't really think that's a path they really want to go down there because they are so high on a guy like DJ Chester. You have to remember, when Charles Turner went down in that Missouri game, that's a tightly contested game. They went to the true freshman in DJ Chester to take that spot. So, again, some things have to happen, but let's say Miles Frazier or Garrett Dellinger, one of them decides not to take that extra year and they do move on. Well, I think what everyone has always kind of thought about, and maybe more so at the right guard spot, is that's when you could move Emory Jones there and you have Lance Heard go out to tackle, and that could be your line. If that happens, there's your path for him to get back out, to get onto the field in a starting role, which ultimately it's got to be what he wants. I mean, I remember when he signed with LSU and Brian Kelly, and you know what? Forgive me, I should have went and pulled this audio and I didn't. Brian Kelly told that story about when they met with Lance Heard and in an in-home visit or whatnot, and he said, I'm coming to LSU to play left tackle. And Brian Kelly said, we got Will Campbell. He said, I know about Will. I've played with Will, but I'm coming to play left tackle. Like, that's the mentality that a guy like Lance Heard has. So there is the path. And of utmost importance here is that you understand that if you can, when he evaluates and LSU evaluates with him, if you get him back, you absolutely take him back. Like, that's not a question. But there is the other side of the coin that you have to look at if you can't. And I think while that would be a loss, it wouldn't be a catastrophic loss for LSU. They have done extremely well recruiting offensive linemen. They have built the depth. They've signed 14 so far in three classes. 6 of them in the class of 2023, including 5-star offensive tackle Weston Davis, and then you flipped Cohen Eccles as well on the interior from Texas A&M as a 4-star, and you have another 4-star in the class as well. And you still have depth on this team. So it is a spot that you could withstand losing a body, albeit potentially one as talented as Lance Heard, who, again, reiterate, you want to keep. I'm not pushing him out the door. You want to keep that guy. But you can withstand it. And that is the one position, that and tight end, that we've all pointed to of Brian Kelly and his track record of being able to, recruit, develop, and send on to the next level. 3 years now, they've signed a 5-star tackle. Will Campbell, Lance Heard, Weston Davis. You could raise the point, okay, yeah, but do you really want, have a freshman as your backup there again? I mean, they're not all going to hit, but so far you hit with Will Campbell as a freshman playing, you hit with Emory Jones as a freshman playing. I'd say you hit with Lance Heard and the time we saw him out there. The trend's on your side, but I totally understand. So that is the way. That's the very long-winded way of putting it. You want that guy back. There is a path to the field for him next year here at LSU. But if by some chance they can't reach the common ground and he does figure his role at LSU is not where he wants to be right now and moves on, LSU is built to withstand it on the offensive line right now. And then there's always the transfer portal if you feel like you need an extra body there that they can go get. We'll keep you updated as best we can on that. But right now, LSU is going to continue preparing for the ReliaQuest Bowl. Lance Heard will evaluate right now with his family, and after the bowl game, LSU and him and his family will come together, and they will come to a decision on what's next for a very, very talented player. The one other thing I did want to get to that Brian Kelly mentioned goes back to something we talked about yesterday, and that's roles in the co-offensive coordinator with Cortez Hankton and Joe Sloan sharing those. We kind of talked about who's going to call plays and whatnot. It's going to be Joe Sloan. Brian Kelly confirmed that earlier today. Joe Sloan will be in the booth, in the press box, to stay up there, calling the plays down to Cortez Hankton, who will be on the sideline, and then they will send the play in. Joe Sloan was up in the booth all season. Cortez Hankton was on the sideline. Brian Kelly said it was a natural fit, and for all the reasons that we talked about, potentially having a Joe Sloan call plays yesterday, the relationship with Nussmeier, familiarity there, the confidence that they have in each other, it did just make sense. So that's how LSU will handle that as well. Joe Sloan up in the booth calling plays down to Cortez Hankton on the sideline, and then they will signal those plays in. LSU, Wisconsin, ReliaQuest Bowl, 11 a.m. kick on Monday. And they'll wrap up the 2023 season looking to get to 10 wins. We're going to talk about the importance of that a little bit later on in the show. But right now, we have to grab a break, come back on the other side. We'll continue to college football talk, but on a more national scale. Get a preview of the playoff semifinals, the Rose and Sugar Bowl. Bill Bender of the Sporting News is going to join us to help us out with that. That's next on Friday's AFR, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
AFR.
AFR is brought to you by Clegg's Nursery. Buy local, shop local for more than 60 years. Clegg's, look, we've turned the page from Christmas, although you might get lucky because a lot of the Christmas decor that could be out is discounted, and I would need to get into the store to see how much is left, but it's one of those things where you could buy at the end of the season and then just store it in your attic, so you get a deep discount on a lot of great decor for next Christmas at Clegg's Nursery. But, y'all, this is the time of year, man. We are into the winter months. This is the time to plant trees. There's fruit trees, there's citrus trees. It's a great time to get by Clegg's, pick up trees or shrubs. This is planting season right now at Clegg's Nursery. So get to any of the 4 locations: Siegen near Airline, LA 16 in Denham, the Mid-City location on Donmore, and the Garden Center on Greenwell Springs for more than 60 years. Buy local, shop local. Be sure to tell them that Matt sent you in when you go see our friends today at Clegg's Nursery.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
His name was Cain. He had a horse along the countryside. I saw him ride. One day they found him.
Glide and twirl in a winter wonderland. Skating on the river is back. Ice skating at the Raising Cane's River Center Arena, December 18th through 31st. Visit RaisingCanesRiverCenter.com for scheduled times, dates, and to purchase tickets. Sponsored by Fox 44, NBC Local 33, Guarantee Media, and Acadian Ambulance.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
It was a humid day, barefoot children play, looking for that summer shade. Time just slips away. Oh, Louisiana, some kind of hold on me. Like cypress stumps, your roots are planted deep inside of me.
Would a couple that just came from a couples massage have any use for the massage seats of the Infiniti QX60? Yes, it appears they would. With driver and passenger massage seats, mute all your notifications and feel infinitely you.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
Back here on Friday's edition of AFR, Musso in for Moscona. Of course, the last full weekend of college football for the year, but also for the season. It's a glorious weekend. It's really been a fantastic. Great game early with Clemson and Kentucky. Clemson winning that one 38-35. Want to step out away. We've talked a lot about LSU and Wisconsin, obviously. The other games on New Year's Day, pretty significant. The college football playoff semifinals, the Rose Bowl with Alabama and Michigan, and, of course, the Sugar Bowl with Texas and Washington. Bill Bender from the Sporting News will join us right now to help us preview those. Bill, we appreciate the time. How are you?
I'm doing well. So the Pop-Tarts won the national championship last night. Is that what we decided?
Every bowl game, Bill, should be the Pop-Tarts Bowl. That was fantastic television. And the game was pretty good, too.
Yeah, great marketing on their part. No question. Trey Wallace, a mutual friend, I'm sure with Outkick, he said something to the effect on Twitter that he had never had a Pop-Tart. And I'm like, how is that possible?
What?
I don't know how that's possible if you're in your mid-40s like me.
Yeah, I mean, they're grab-and-go breakfast at its finest is a Pop-Tart. I mean, you don't like. I could understand if he said, I don't know if I've ever even had a toasted Pop-Tart. Like, okay, because you don't have to. They're great without that. But to never have a Pop-Tart, wow. I hope he had one yesterday.
Right. But, like you said, we're getting into the meat of it. I watched Clemson, Kentucky today. I know we've got a couple good games tonight with Ohio State kicking off the New Year's Day 6. It's an exciting time, and I urge people, watch as much as you can, because you're going to be complaining when it's gone.
That's 100%. But it'll be back before we know it, too, though. That's also the other half of that coin. Bill, let's get into it. First, before we get into each game individually, just kind of broad. Look, there was so much, talk around who was going to get in this year. When you look at this playoff on paper, it's the last year of the 4-team. Is this set up to be the most tightly contested in your eyes that we've had since 2014?
Yeah, I mean, this is the first time in the playoff era where I've felt that you can make a genuine case for each team to win it all. I mean, Texas is pretty easy. They beat Alabama.
Yeah.
Alabama and Michigan. Michigan's favored. Michigan's undefeated. Michigan has the best defense. Alabama's the best team coming out of the best conference. And then Washington, here's this underrated team with a really good offensive line, a Heisman finalist, the only team with a Heisman finalist. Yeah. So, I mean, it's going to be – I think it's going to lead to two very close, awesome games.
All right, let's take them one by one. Let's start with the Rose Bowl. Michigan comes into this having lost 6 straight bowl games. How much does that weigh on their mind, or is it actually a non-factor?
Well, I don't know that each individual game matters as much this year because, I mean, Michigan's a different team than the one that played Alabama in the Citrus Bowl 4 years ago. This team has the nation's best defense. They have All-Americans on both sides of the ball, and they have their best quarterback probably since Jim Harbaugh in J.J. McCarthy. So, but, yeah, I mean, that's a psychological thing. I saw a couple tweets today that kind of brought this home. If Alabama wins, the fallout for Michigan will be pretty severe because the Notre Dame comparison will come up, that they can't win the big game. It'd be 3 straight playoff losses. Nobody's pulled that off so far. So, yeah, I think there is some pressure on them, even though they're the betting favorite.
And when you look at Alabama on the other side, I think, look, no one's going to tell you that this is Nick Saban's best Alabama team. They're good. I mean, look, they're 12-1, but they've had a lot of close calls, whether it be Arkansas, of course, Auburn, of all games there, probably the closest call they've had. They did lose the game to Texas, but they also beat Georgia. They ended up pulling away from LSU late in that game. Which Alabama are you kind of expecting to show up? The one that struggled to put opponents away, or the one that took down, the reigning defending national champion in Georgia?
Well, the one that, if they can run the ball a little bit outside of Jalen Milroe. I mean, their defense is going to be really interesting against Michigan. I told, and I know you're down there in Baton Rouge, so you could probably speak to some Alabama game trends from watching them over the years better than me, but I've watched Michigan football for 44 years, and I know if they can't run it on the interior, and this dates back all the way back to the 80s, they're going to run into some problems. So I'm interested to see if a Michigan offense that struggled to run the ball against Ohio State and Iowa at the end of the season can get that going against Alabama. If they can't, they're going to have some serious issues.
So what is their path? Because J.J. McCarthy, I mean, it hasn't been – I don't think maybe – I mean, you mentioned it earlier. He's probably the best quarterback Jim Harbaugh's had, but yet the numbers aren't really living up to maybe to the hype. Without a running game, can he put Michigan on his back and take down Alabama?
See, I think the back-end stats are a little skewed.
Okay.
I saw that graphic because, he didn't throw a pass in the second half against Penn State. We can't penalize him for them not calling a pass play. But to your point, the numbers aren't – you don't look at his numbers and think C.J. Stroud or Justin Fields or some of those guys Ohio State's had under center. But then again, Michigan just beat Ohio State for the third straight year. So it doesn't have to be glamorous. And it's the same with Jalen Milroe. Jalen Milroe averaged 220 passing yards in their last 5 games, but he's not turning the ball over. The fact he only had 1 interception, that's the stat that matters.
All right. Who wins, Alabama or Michigan? Put you on the spot.
Well, I got Alabama in a close one. And the one stat that does stick out to me, and living in Big Ten country, you hear it over and over, Nick Saban's 8-1 against the Big Ten at Alabama. And he's humiliated some teams. And you got to go all the way back to the Ohio State Sugar Bowl for the lone win. So it's a conditional pick, right? Like the fact that the line hasn't moved, Michigan definitely has a chance, but it's hard for me to pick against Alabama in this spot.
All right, Bill, let's move on to the Sugar Bowl, Washington and Texas. Kind of start with Washington. Can they withstand that Texas pass rush? Because, that line has been awesome for the Longhorns all year long.
They really have, and they get 2 All-American in the middle. And, so where does Washington go with that running game? Can they stretch it to the perimeter with Dylan Johnson? One thing with Washington, they just continue to exceed expectations. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. Like, did you expect them to beat Oregon? I didn't.
No,
not in either game. And they beat Oregon twice. And they went to Oregon State and won. And they've passed every test, and they've got that quarterback. And so, if they can run the ball a little bit, it'll open up things for a guy that, for the casual fan out there, Rome Odunze's a stud.
Yeah.
He's like Malik Neighbors good. And I think maybe Malik's better, whatever. We don't have to get into that. But he is that kind of guy that can change a game.
On the other side, you kind of mentioned that. So I play off that. Texas' secondary, how do they match up against Rome Odunze, Michael Penix, and the likes of that Washington pass game?
Well, it's going to be fun to see if Quinn Ewers doesn't turn the ball over and they can get that deep ball going. It's going to be really interesting. They just haven't – you can make the argument they were the best team in the country in the last month of the season. They just hammered teams, hammered Texas Tech, hammered Oklahoma State, and didn't turn the ball over a lot, and even didn't have Quinn Ewers for a few weeks. So, I think they're going to be fine. And a lot of people are picking Washington to win this game, and that's fine. I can see it. They did win the Alamo Bowl last year against Texas. But I like this Longhorns team. I think we're headed toward a rematch between Texas and Alabama in Houston. I think there'll be quite a few Longhorn fans there if that's the case.
Talking with Bill Bender, the Sporting News is on Twitter at BillBender92. Last one for you. You kind of mentioned it there that you think you're headed for the rematch with Texas and Alabama. And Quinn Ewers, can you not turn the ball over? I did want to pick your brain a little bit on the absence of Jonathan Brooks, though, for Texas. How big of an impact does that play in this game in putting added pressure potentially on Quinn Ewers?
Well, they have C.J. Baxter. They have some other guys, and they've been able to find a running game around Quinn Ewers. And it didn't really – that's like what I've been so impressed about is those injuries. They didn't miss a beat. You thought, okay, they'll struggle a little bit, and they didn't. And, having Worthy and Mitchell and Sanders, I mean, that's an NFL collection of pass catchers. So I think that will continue in this game. It's going to be – that will be the more exciting game. I think Alabama Michigan will be the more entertaining game because they're in the Rose Bowl.
So you have Alabama, Texas, and a national championship. Want to give a pick on that before we let you go?
I'm going to go with Alabama.
Oh, I was afraid you were going to say that. Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Alabama wins the national title. I know. And I know what radio station I'm on, and I love all you guys down there, like between you and Hester and T-Bob and everybody else. I love LSU. I love covering because I am in Joe Burrow's zip code, by the way.
There we go.
So he's my guy. Yeah, I think Alabama finds a way in the rematch, and Jalen Milroe doesn't turn the ball over. But again, like we said at the top, this is a playoff where I can envision any one of these teams holding that trophy up, and that's what makes it so exciting.
It is set up to be a very exciting one. New Year's Day looks like it's going to be a great day of football, as it normally is, but this year especially. Bill, we appreciate the time, and hopefully we can do it again soon.
Hey, let's do it again soon. Thanks so much for having me. Take care.
Absolutely, you do the same. Bill Bender of the Sporting News on Twitter at BillBender92. Y'all give him a follow. I just knew he was good. Paul, didn't I tell you that earlier? We were talking about what we had come up on the show. Is Bill Bender's going to preview? Didn't I tell you he's going to pick Alabama? And that's just really the one thing I don't want to have happen.
You did? Yep.
Yeah.
You called that.
Because as much as it pains me to admit, I'm in the same boat as him. I've seen this movie. We all lived this movie here, where Alabama loses to a team in the regular season, gets into the playoff when they or the national championship game when they didn't deserve it. I mean, you can look at Florida State. We don't have to have that old conversation again. Fights their way to the national championship, ends up in a rematch and beats that team. We literally lived that. We were all victimized by that. I've seen it happen. It's just I can't get it out of my head that it's going to happen again this year, that they will beat Michigan. Texas will beat Washington. You will have that rematch, and Alabama will win the national championship and beat Texas. I hope I'm wrong. I hope Bill Bender's wrong. I hope Michigan beats Alabama. But it's also one of those moments where you've seen Nick Saban in that role. It's the same exact thing as the SEC championship. They go in as the underdog. You got a bunch of people like in Georgia there, and Alabama controls that thing really from the second drive of the game on. I could see something very similar happening against Michigan. Bama has all the edges you could want in that game. They got the coaching edge. I think right now they have the quarterback edge right now because, I mean, over the last 6 weeks, and I understand what Bill's saying there, where maybe not all those stats at the back end are J.J. McCarthy's fault. And I get it. The game against Penn State was laughable with how Michigan called offense at the end of that. Really not the end of it, from the middle of the second quarter through the end of it. But, I mean, Jalen Milroe has been so dynamic really since the LSU game on. When you compare those two, which quarterback are you going to take? I'm taking Milroe. So that's two right there. I, for one, don't think that Michigan's going to be able to run the football on Alabama. They could be missing a key piece on the offensive line that they were missing against Iowa, and they struggled to get the run game going there. All-American guard. The two teams that have had the most success running the ball against Alabama this year were LSU and Auburn, and they did that mainly with the quarterback. J.J. McCarthy's not going to sit there. He's not going to run all over this Bama defense. So, again, I hope Michigan, they're the betting favorite, but I kind of expected Alabama, that line to maybe flip by now. And maybe it does still by game time, but we'll see. Again, I hope I'm wrong. You know who I want to win this thing? Washington. Let Washington win the national championship. Nobody wants to see Michigan do it. They're the brand. Get out of here. And Michigan hasn't really won anything of substance. The Big Ten conference title, that's great. Nobody cares nationally about that when it comes to anything. Just for all the reasons we know, get Alabama out of here. I don't want to see Texas win anything of significance in any sport ever, especially with them coming into the SEC next year. Let Washington win the national championship. That's the best outcome for these parts, I think. We'll see if they get it done. Probably not, but new Bill. I knew he was going to pick Alabama to win it all. We'll see. They'll tee it up, kick it off, play the games. They aren't played on paper. They're played on a field. And they matter unless you're Florida State. We're going to grab a break, come back on the other side, go around the SEC. It's Friday edition of AFR presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar. Wilson Alexander still to come. Plenty more thoughts on LSU and Wisconsin, the ReliaQuest Bowl, and, of course, the Saints as they cling to their playoff hopes. They will put them on the line against the Buccaneers. We'll have thoughts on that as the show rolls on as well. That's all next on AFR.
AFR.
Brought to you by Darren James and Associates, brokered by LPT Realty. Tell you every day. Every home listed by every company all in one place. You know where to find them. Agent225.com. Agent225.com. And Darren has joined LPT Realty, the fastest growing real estate company ever. Literally. In 1 year, LPT Realty has gone from 0 agents to 6,000 agents. Some of the most well-known real estate companies in the world. It took 7 to 10 years to build that type of volume. LPT Realty did it in 1 year. Why? Communication, marketing, the way that they market homes, their properties, your clients listing, the resources they provide you, and for you, the realtor, the agent, the way that they handle revenue share and distribution is unparalleled. Toy Hamilton over in Lafayette has joined Darren James's team in LPT Realty as well. You could be next. Agent225.com.
Think real estate, think Darren James.
Bayou Ford is taking $15,000 off MSRP on new 23 Ford Expedition. $15,000 off new Ford Expedition. And all new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Life in Louisiana is a song. A symphony of sound, colors, and movement. Life is here, now. For life's moments, big and small, always there. The right card, the right care.
The interior of an Infiniti is thoughtfully designed to be all about you. And by you, we mean every version of you. Because there's luxury you can feel, and there's luxury that lets you feel. Infinitely you. Experience luxury like never before with Infiniti Premium Care, included with the 2023 QX80 at your local retailer.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
His name was Cain. He had a horse along the countryside. I saw him ride. One day they found him
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so...
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
As we get on down the road, remind you about Relief Windows and ReliefWindows.com. Energy-efficient replacement windows, beautiful entry doors, hardy plank and vinyl siding. They do it all at Relief Windows and ReliefWindows.com. Not only do they do it better, but with better customer service as well. That's what you'll always hear from Brandon Holly and the gang. Hey, look, bottom line is, man, there are people that will, undercut price, beat you on price, and the reality is you get what you pay for in life. You want superior quality, products, service, that's what you get at Relief Windows. Like Brandon Holly and Relief Windows offer a wood window product that comes with a lifetime warranty. And oh, by the way, they never take $1 from you until they're done and you're thrilled with the work that they've done. That's Relief Windows. It's windows, doors, siding, but it's also experience, quality, and service. It's Relief Windows and ReliefWindows.com. Check them out online. Again, Relief Windows and ReliefWindows.com.
All right, back here on a Friday edition of AFR, brought to you by Don Juan Cigar Bar. Musso sitting in for Moscona. Moscona back in the chair next week, and just enjoyed a nice little extended break here throughout the holiday, as many do, right? I mean, those days in between Christmas and New Year's, man. Whew. Some will tell you they are probably the most useless days of the year, but I think we've had plenty to talk about the last few days here on the show, and today especially for what can normally be a bit of a slow news day. Not so much here on this Friday. So let's keep it moving. Let's do so with a trip around the SEC.
Around the SEC, presented by Gulf Coast Office Products, excellence in imaging solutions.
Texas A&M!
So Mike Elko is continuing to fill out his staff there in College Station, and reports out of Texas A&M come from Matt Zenitz that A&M looks to have found their special teams coordinator. It's a familiar name to Mike Elko. It's Patrick Doherty, who was with him at Duke. Is his most recent stint, and it was pretty successful. Under Doherty, Duke is ranked in the top 25 nationally in punt and kickoff return defense, punt return average, and blocked kicks. So Patrick Doherty looks like he's headed to Texas A&M following Mike Elko to be the special teams coordinator for the Aggies.
The Tennessee Volunteers.
Vols running back Jabari Small declared for the 2024 NFL Draft earlier today. He will not play in the Citrus Bowl versus Iowa. 475 yards and 2 touchdowns this season. You might say, that guy's going into the draft? Well, when you look at the career as a whole, it makes a little bit more sense. 45 games at Tennessee, 24 of those were starts. Rushed for over 2,100 yards, 16th all-time out on the Tennessee list, and his 24 career rushing touchdowns ranked 12th in program history. He will now look to move on to the next step in his career and enter the NFL Draft.
The Florida Gators.
Florida cornerback Jaden Hill entered the transfer portal today. Hill started 11 games for the Gators this season, appeared in all 12, 39 tackles and 4 PBUs in 2023. A 4-star prospect out of Madison, Alabama in the class of 2019. It was a medical red shirt that cost him the 2021 season, but in 4 years in Gainesville, appeared in 43 games, 88 tackles, 2 INTs, and 18 pass breakups. He will look elsewhere for his next destination.
The Georgia Bulldogs.
And one thing the transfer portal season brings us, also, I should say, one additional thing, is confusion. And that's happening right now in Athens, Georgia. So cornerback Daniel Harris himself announced that he's heading into the transfer portal. And there's been plenty of reports over the last week that have, kind of backed that up. But Kirby Smart says not so fast. Smart spoke with the media today ahead of the Orange Bowl and was asked about Harris and indicated that not so fast. Quote, just because somebody posted he's going into the portal doesn't mean he is. You have to go in the portal, and he has not. Harris is a former 4-star recruit in the class of 2023 and appeared in just 5 games for Georgia this year and didn't record any stats in those 5 games. He says, I'm leaving. Kirby Smart says, no, you're not. We'll keep you updated on the curious case of Daniel Harris and the Georgia Bulldogs. Bowl games action from earlier today. We mentioned it a little bit there with Bill Bender. Kentucky fell 38-35 to Clemson. Devin Leary, 306 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 INTs. Cade Klubnik, pretty nice day, 267 yards for Clemson. And tonight, the Cotton Bowl, Missouri from the league, they will face Ohio State in what should be a pretty interesting ball game. Of note there, you'll see plenty of guys for Mizzou, because a lot of them are coming back, like Luther Burden. He'll be back next year. Cook, the quarterback, will be back next year. So those guys are going to play in the game. Ohio State, you'll remember, that was like an exodus earlier in the portal window. So we'll see. Of course, no Kyle McCord for the Buckeyes. That game definitely has some intrigue, and you know Missouri is going to be fired up to be there. A chance for an 11-win season for Drink and the crew. And something I find interesting, you may not, I like it, both teams will wear their home uniforms in that game. It should be very aesthetically pleasing to watch, and that should happen more often, I think. That's like USC and UCLA. When both of them, they wear their home uniforms in that game against each other, and it's probably the best uniform game. Not probably, it is the best uniform game of the season every year. Not going to be the case with Ohio State and Missouri, but still more aesthetically pleasing than not. That's around the SEC. It's brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products, excellence in imaging solutions. All right, we are about to grab a break here, coming up to close out hour number 1. But first, we will let Matt remind you about Michelli.
AFR is brought to you by Michelli Weighing and Measurement, Michelli.com, with more than 30 offices across 11 different states. You're never far from a Michelli location. The great news about Michelli is not only are they nearby, but you can always ship your precision measurement devices to Michelli, or they can come get them from you. Like, that's also true. Why pack up your devices, ship them to a calibration lab in Chicago? Something that could take days with Michelli could take weeks with another company. Call them, they'll come by, pick up your devices, bring it back to the calibration lab, calibrate it, return it to you in a matter of days. It's about making you more efficient. It's about doing business face-to-face. I love telling the story. Joel McMullen and his son Sean played baseball at LSU, came up to go to an LSU baseball game with us last year. They stopped from Harahan between Baton Rouge, all of their different clients, just for a little FaceTime. That's how it's done. It's how it's been done for more than 70 years. Michelli Weighing and Measurement. Michelli.com.
All right, so getting set to grab a break here. We'll pass this programming note on. We've talked about it a little bit throughout the week, but Monday on ESPN, it won't be a normal lineup of shows. It's going to be treated just like game day on a normal Saturday in the fall with LSU playing Wisconsin. So no OTB, no Live at Lunch, no Hunt Palmer Show, no AFR. Back to the normal lineup on Tuesday. So for Monday, you'll have Eagle 98.1 game day in the morning, 7 a.m. to 9. Hanny and I will get you set for kickoff. And then we'll hand it off to the network, obviously, and they'll carry you right up to kickoff. You'll have the game on Eagle 98.1. Whiskey and Wine, location change for Whiskey and Wine. So if you love whiskey and wine, I know many of y'all do, listen up. Don Juan Cigar Bar closed on New Year's Day, so we had to audible. Walk-Ons Burbank, the original Walk-Ons, will host Whiskey and Wine on Monday. So T-Bob Scone, they'll be there as soon as the clock hits 0. You know the drill. They'll react to the game, look at the offseason coming up, things of that nature. There'll be plenty to discuss. So Whiskey and Wine, right as the clock hits 0 on Monday, live from the Walk-Ons on Burbank, the original location. That's where we'll be. And then you have Eagle Game Day postgame, Hanny and Richard Dixon. And then, of course, we'll be back on Monday to the regular to the regular lineup, and Scone will be back from his vacation to talk about it all. And there will be plenty to go through. Whether it's Saints, we'll know their playoff fate, if they're still hanging on or if they're done, which many of us suspect they will be. But they have to go play the game. LSU, all the happenings in the offseason. And also, it'll be a big topic when it comes to LSU that week is going to be recruiting. You have the bowl game Monday. Harlem Berry is going to announce his decision for the class of 2025, number one running back, number one player in the state of Louisiana, at the Under Armour All-American game on the 3rd. So that would be Wednesday. And then, of course, Bryce Underwood, the number one player in the country for 2025, the number one quarterback in the country, is on January the 6th. So it ain't slowing down around LSU football anytime soon. So there will be plenty to talk about when we return to our normal lineup on Tuesday. For now, we will grab one more break. We will come back and close out hour number one. Wilson Alexander still to come at the top of next hour, as well as plenty more thoughts on LSU and Wisconsin in the ReliaQuest Bowl. AFR Friday edition presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar rolls on next. Stay here.
AFR.
AFR is brought to you by Pluckers, Nicholson, and Bluebonnet. Dine in or carry out 28 flavors of award-winning jumbo chicken wings, ice-cold draft beer, full-service bar, sports on TV. My goodness, there's something going on at Pluckers every night of the week. What more could you possibly want? How about sandwiches? Well, they've got those. What about salads? Pluckers actually has really underrated salads. Giant, gorgeous, fresh salads. You can actually eat healthy at Pluckers. Or you could just binge. Award-winning jumbo chicken wings tossed in your favorite sauce. You want to create your own menu item? Do it. They encourage the creativity. Great sides as well, like the cheese fries, the El Guapo dip, maybe the homemade blue cheese potato chips, holy macaroni, fried pickles. They got it all at Pluckers. Nicholson, just south of campus. Bluebonnet right in front of the Mall of Louisiana. The best place to watch the game, which game? Any game, is at Pluckers, because you can eat wings, drink beer, and watch sports on TV. Remember, at Pluckers, if you don't like our wings, we'll give you the bird.
Thank you, Acadiana, for over 56 years of allowing Corvell Toyota in Opelousas to take care of you and your automotive needs. Enjoy this holiday season with family and friends. From the Corvell Toyota family to yours, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
The world's leaders in obesity research, obesity medicine, and obesity science are right here.
We're doing something that no one's ever done, or trying to answer a question that no one's ever asked before.
Pennington is a real jewel when it comes to research.
We are finding the solutions to the world's worst chronic disease, which is obesity. Louisiana needs Pennington Biomedical.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Would a couple that just came from a couples massage have any use for the massage seats of the Infiniti QX60? Yes, it appears they would. With driver and passenger massage seats, mute all your notifications and feel infinitely you.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust poll of the day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch on Palmer. And after further review. After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
Wrapping up hour number one here on a Friday, AFR presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar. Musso sitting in for Moscona. Mel Kiper has updated his big board ahead of the 2024 NFL, or I should say his big board for the 2024 NFL draft ahead of the final weekend the final full weekend in college football and the playoff semifinals and things of that nature. Run through it a little bit here. Right now, again, he's still just on the top 25 players in the draft, so it's not even the full 32 picks that'll be made, because it's eventually the big board will get to 50, and then he'll probably do the top 100 players and things of that nature. But still here in December, just at 25. A couple LSU Tigers and one slight change for those LSU Tigers. We'll start. Caleb Williams remains number 1. Drake May remains number 3. Marvin Harrison remains number 2. Jaden Daniels at number 4. It's not a change. That's where he was at the last update for Mel Kiper. And you'll remember he did a whole preview, like a whole feature on Jaden Daniels a few weeks ago. That was really, really well done. We talked about it here on AFR as well. You should definitely go back and read it if you hadn't. It was very good. But it just, again, it further illustrates the rise that Jaden Daniels has had. And there's still a long way to go in this draft process for Daniels. I mean, look, he's got an invite to the Senior Bowl on the table still. He could take that and get in front of NFL scouts that way. There's the Combine. There's Pro Day. How much he chooses to do at those, we'll see. There's the all-important interview process. But one thing's for sure, I don't know if I'm going to – if we can sit here and say slam dunk top 10. That's what all the projections are saying. I get it. Right now, there's still that long process. But one thing's for sure, I don't think at this point Daniels has definitely solidified himself as a first-round pick. We'll see as far as he goes. If it's, in my opinion, I think he will go in the top 10. It's just a matter of a matter of where. Mel Kiper Jr. has him still the 4th best player overall in the draft. Brock Bowers at 5, Rome Odunze at 6, no change there. Your slight change comes at number 7, and that's where we find Malik Neighbors from LSU now. Neighbors previously was 8th, so up 1 spot, but Kiper notes the speed. He notes the yards after the catch, as everybody has, and it's great to see Neighbors continue to climb. The interesting thing with Malik Neighbors is, can he overtake Rome Odunze and become wide receiver 2? And again, it's early in the process still. There's everything we just went through with Jaden Daniels, whether it's, there's not a Senior Bowl or anything like that right now for Neighbors as underclassmen, although they can participate in some of those games now, but there's no invite there. So All-Star game, you kind of take that out, but Combine, Pro Day, interviews, all of that stuff. Can he maneuver? Because what he's done on the field speaks for itself. He's the best wide receiver in college football this year. That's not actually really a debate. I mean, the numbers bear that out. Awards be damned. I don't care. What you do on the field actually determines that honor, and Malik Neighbors was incredible. Rome Odunze is very, very good too. We were talking about him with Bill Bender earlier on the day when we were previewing the college football playoff semifinals. So that's really the interesting thing. You've seen it in some mock drafts. Malik Neighbors being wide receiver number 2, taken behind Marvin Harrison. We talked a little bit about that the other day as well when we were looking at comps in the draft for Neighbors. But that's one of the big things left, I think, of intrigue. He's creeping up there, up to number 7 now on Mel Kiper's big board. That does it for LSU guys on the list. We'll see when the big board expands where guys like Brian Thomas and others kind of land, and certain guys who have decisions to make. He's certainly one of them. So we'll keep you posted on all of that. But Jaden Daniels remains number 4 on Mel Kiper's big board. Malik Neighbors up to number 7, 1 spot from number 8. All right, we have a break coming up here, top of the hour break, Sports Center, national headlines. And then when we return, we're heading to Tampa. Talk to Wilson Alexander from The Advocate. Get you a scene setter of how things are going bowl prep-wise. We'll get the very latest on things happening around LSU. Definitely ask Wilson about Lance Heard, a few thoughts on the game, how the offense functions with Garrett Nussmeier and all that. That's coming up after the break. Wilson Alexander follows Sports Center. Hour number 2 of AFR on the other side. Stay here.
AFR.
AFR is brought to you by South Point Volkswagen and SouthPointVW.com. As we put a button here in hour number 2, I love telling you about South Point Volkswagen, especially this time of year, because Sign Then Drive is going on. Sign Then Drive is the single best sale that they have all year over at South Point Volkswagen. It is easy. 0 down, 0 due at signing, no first month's payment, no security deposit. You sign your name, and you drive away in a brand new vehicle from South Point Volkswagen. With Louisiana's largest volume Volkswagen dealer, you have the greatest selection as well. If it's the Atlas, the 3-row 7-seater family SUV, the Cross Sport, which is what I drive, it's basically the Atlas that takes out the 3rd row. The Taos, which is the fun-sized SUV. You can test drive one today. All of the different models they've got in there at South Point Volkswagen. The Tiguan, the ID4. Check it out today at South Point Volkswagen. Airline just north of Highland or online at southpointvw.com. South Point Volkswagen, what's your direction?
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $10,000 off MSRP on new 23 Jeep Grand Cherokee, $10,000 off new Jeep Grand Cherokee, and all new Bayou Automotive vehicles come with a 1 million-mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
Glide and twirl in a winter wonderland. Skating on the river is back. Ice skating at the Raising Cane's River Center Arena, December 18th through 31st. Visit RaisingCanesRiverCenter.com for scheduled times, dates, and to purchase tickets. Sponsored by Fox 44, NBC Local 33, Guarantee Media, and Acadian Ambulance.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
The interior of an Infiniti is thoughtfully designed to be all about you. And by you, we mean every version of you. Because there's luxury you can feel, and there's luxury that lets you feel. Infinitely you. Experience luxury like never before with Infiniti Premium Care, included with the 2023 QX80 at your local retailer.
This is SportsCenter. I'm Christine Lisi. Jaguars quarterback Trevor Lawrence ruled out of Sunday's game against the Panthers with a shoulder injury. C.J. Beathard starts in place of Lawrence, who will miss his first ever NFL game. Dolphins will be without their second leading receiver for their massive matchup against the Ravens Sunday. Confirmation from Coach Mike McDaniel. Jalen Waddle won't play due to a high ankle sprain. With no Waddle, Dolphins likely turn to their third leading receiver, Cedric Wilson Jr., to step in. It's a face-off of teams in the running for the AFC's top spot. ESPN NFL analyst Dan Orlovsky.
I felt that the number 1 seed is most important to Miami because they get to play at home, they get to operate at home. I think when their offense bogs down a little bit, it's per their operation and the communication.
Steelers starting quarterback Mason Rudolph for a second straight game against Seattle Sunday. The Bills anticipate defensive tackle Daquan Jones and safety Micah Hyde returning from injury against the Patriots Sunday. Bengals receiver Jamar Chase, limited at practice a second straight day, is still uncertain ahead of Sunday's game versus the Chiefs with that shoulder injury. NBA Suns guard Bradley Beal back from a right ankle sprain versus the Hornets tonight.
Hey, it's Michelle Smallman from Unsportsmanlike. I just want to wish everyone a happy and healthy holiday and a happy new year. We'll see you in 2024. It's Unsportsmanlike, 6 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge Studios.
That's right.
Hour number 2 of After Further Review, off and running. Friday show presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar. Musso sitting in for Moscona. Casey Gaines and Paul O'Neill along for the ride as well. 1 hour in the books, plenty of football covered in that. Talked about some comments from Brian Kelly and his media availability earlier today. Bill Bender from the Sporting News joined to preview the college football playoff semifinals. We'll continue that college football talk here momentarily with Wilson Alexander. Jake Madison still to come as well. And we haven't yet touched on Saints and Buccaneers today, so we will do that here as well later on in this hour and in the third hour of the show. I've put it off for about as long as I can. Let's talk LSU, Wisconsin, and ReliaQuest Bowl. Let's head to Tampa. Join Wilson Alexander from The Advocate. Wilson, we appreciate the time. How are you?
Doing well, Matt. How are you guys today?
Doing fantastic. Let's start, before we get into the game a little bit, let's start with some comments made by Brian Kelly on Lance Heard and his absence from the team. Brian Kelly mentioning that Lance is evaluating his role at LSU with his family. Is there anything more that you can tell us?
Well, not more than I can say off of that, other than, he's not in the transfer portal yet as of now. But when Brian Kelly says something along those lines, that seems to be maybe what he's thinking about is he needs to go somewhere else for a different kind of role. If he's still looking at his role and evaluating it, then that's kind of the indication there. And so, but he's not in the portal yet. But again, he has not joined the team in Tampa or anything like that. He's away from the team right now. And those conversations that Kelly said they've started with the family and with Lance will kind of resume after the bowl game, but they're sort of on hold at the moment. And that's kind of the extent of what we know.
So you obviously have Emory Jones there at one of the tackle spots. I say one because Will Campbell missed practice today. I know you had that report. It's a flu, I do believe. Is his status for the game Monday in any jeopardy?
No, not at the moment. He's been getting better from what I've told, and he's sort of on the mend from that. But, he was practicing earlier this week. He's with the team and everything, but they kept him back at the hotel today kind of as precaution, and felt like it was a good thing to kind of give him that day off, try to get healthy. So we've got practice access again tomorrow. We'll see if he's out there. They've got a few days here between now and the game. So at the moment, it still feels like he's going to be expected to play there on Monday.
What has the vibe been around the team right now, Wilson? Because, I mean, look, it's bowl season, and there's so many conversations that happen around this about, teams that want to be at the bowl game versus teams that don't want to be. LSU, with what the players have said, and certainly the participation that's going to happen, it seems like they're excited for this game, but you've been able to be out at practice a few days this week. What has the vibe kind of been around the unit?
The vibe has been one of sort of commitment, I think is the word that comes to mind, because of the number of players in this game. And what we've heard from them over the last week now is just that they all kind of wanted to be here and play. And, obviously Jaden has been the only opt-out, and other than, Lance, everybody who's not with the team has kind of entered the portal, and nobody was necessarily a shocker in those regards. A lot of guys looking for more playing time. And so the core of this team, the team that you saw most on the field this year, is down here and practicing, having Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas, projected first-round picks who are probably gone after this game, out here practicing and, being with the first-team offense and expected to play in this game. And is a sign that this team is committed to each other and committed to trying to get a 10th win. Is something that it seems to have resonated with a few of them. Not to a massive degree necessarily, but, Greg Penn talked about this today, that they've enjoyed playing with each other and they want to get back out there and play one more time. And so a lot of them just like playing football, and they are going, clearly that they've kind of locked into this game. And it is really impressive that LSU only has the one opt-out from Jaden, that everybody else is playing, even those with looming draft decisions, or a guy like Mekhi Wingo, who really has no need to play in this game, even if he's coming back next year or not. He's coming off an injury, but he's kind of got back from that injury to come and play, and he's been full go, and he's going to be playing on Monday. And so you kind of get that sense from a lot of guys that there's just sort of a commitment to each other and that they want to be playing.
When looking at the 10th win, you mentioned that. How big is that, especially in a year like this one where there was so much hype? Their preseason number 5 playoff aspiration was real preseason. You have the struggles that they did, especially on the defensive side of the ball. How big in your mind is the opportunity to get win number 10 when you did fall short of expectation?
Yeah, in my mind, on a scale of 1 to 10, it's like a 6. It's not a massive thing to have 10 wins or not. It's not going to really affect probably the long-term future of the program if they don't win this game. It probably doesn't have any residual effects in recruiting, but it does allow you to kind of have another marker of positivity of sorts going into the offseason, and something else to be able to hang their hat on as a program, to be able to look over the last 2 years. And while there have certainly been areas where they've come up short, the defensive struggles this year were, obviously in a massive Achilles heel, and that really held the team back. There's like a lot that needs to be fixed and worked on and changed going into this offseason. But you can at least then, kind of look back throughout the offseason and say, okay, well, they've won back-to-back 10-win seasons, had a Heisman Trophy winner, won an SEC West title, and that gives you some positive momentum going forward. And that's never a bad thing to have. It also wouldn't be a detriment necessarily for the long-term future they lost. Maybe there'll be people who are a lot more angsty in the offseason if they lose this game heading into next year, but at least gives you some positive momentum. And again, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all. One more before we get to Garrett Nussmeier in the offense, because we're going to get there. I wanted to circle back on Mekhi Wingo, and you mentioned, he's coming off the injury. He doesn't have to play in this game. Even if he does come back, man's coming off injury. He missed the last 6 weeks of the season. Has LSU, have they mentioned anything about his usage, any kind of like snap count or something for Mekhi Wingo in that, or is he a full go?
No, haven't mentioned any snap count. Just sort of basically said that he's kind of back in full go. It's going to be interesting to see exactly how much he really does play and kind of what his role looks like, because he's been off for, the second half of the year. When we've been at practice, although our viewing has been limited now over the last 2 weeks, he's usually been with the second-team defense. We'll see if that changes at all kind of going into this game. I would certainly expect him to be rotating with, Mason Smith and Jordan Jefferson and Jacobian Guillory. So maybe he won't be the starter. Maybe he won't play like all of the snaps or something like that. We'll have to see in that regard, because he is coming off of an injury. But, it seems like he doesn't really have any limitations. Other than just kind of conditioning. That was the thing that he mentioned himself last week was, having missed that time, he's felt like at that time last week, he was at about 90%. And he felt like he would get to that full 100 by the bowl game. But the main sort of blockage between getting to 100% was just the conditioning from having not practiced or run and that kind of thing over the last 5-6 weeks of the season. So, but other than that, no, he doesn't seem to have any limitations.
Talking with Wilson Alexander, of course, covers LSU for The Advocate. All right, Garrett Nussmeier. We made it 9 minutes into this interview without bringing up Garrett Nussmeier in the offense, but that is one of, if not the main source of intrigue surrounding this game, is Nuss's first start, and can this springboard him into the potential that everybody sees in him as the starting quarterback at LSU. Wilson, with all the expectation going into this, what is a fair expectation for Garrett Nussmeier in his first start?
That's interesting. Something I hadn't really quite thought of what a fair expectation would be. Would probably be to be a good facilitator. I think would be the fair expectation, because you've got Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas and Kyron Lacey and Logan Diggs and Mason Taylor and, all these weapons that have been around this offense, and the structure of this offense is in place. He doesn't need to go out and do like what Jaden Daniels did in, the Florida game or something ridiculous like that. And I wouldn't even necessarily put like a statistical number on it at this point as to what the fair expectation would be. Wisconsin has done a good job of limiting explosive plays. That's not necessarily something that's going to come easily. And he's going to be dealing with, a different offensive coordinator. Sounds like Joe Sloan, plays are going to come down from him in the booth and then kind of go through Cortez Hankton. There's going to be some collaboration. And while the playbook maybe not necessarily be different, it will look a little bit different, I think, in terms of like what they're calling, because they're going to try to tailor it to Garrett's strengths. And with all that kind of going on and making his first start, I feel like if the fair expectation is just for him to do a good job of facilitating the offense and getting the ball to the playmakers to let them make plays. He doesn't need to go out and necessarily throw for 450 and 4 touchdowns. If he does, great. Then you feel great going into the offseason.
Yeah.
But in terms of expectations, that's probably where I would set it right now, just because this is his first career start.
How much you mentioned the offense is going to look a little different. How much do you think it does change, whether it be because of Garrett or the absence of Mike Denbrock with him off to Notre Dame? How much will it actually change, do you think?
I think it's going to be the same, playbook. They're not going to suddenly upend that after what's been in place for 4 or 5 months here. But in terms of what they're choosing out of that playbook, I do expect there to be a little bit of a difference. Garrett is, Josh Williams said yesterday, people don't give Garrett enough credit for how fast he is. He said that he's been clocked in the 20-mile-an-hour range on LSU's GPS numbers. But he doesn't have the running ability like Jaden does. So you're probably not going to quite see the same amount of design quarterback runs. You might not see as many zone reads, even though it seems like that's still going to be a part of the offense at times, because Garrett can do those things, just not quite to the same level that Jaden does. It sounds like, having talked to players the last few weeks, the big thing will just be maintaining the vertical passing game and maybe even extending that in some ways. They keep saying, just because of the way Garrett approaches the game, like they're kind of expecting him to air it out a little bit, because that's what we've seen from him when he's played so far in his career. And that's what they've seen from him in practice, that, he's not afraid to let it rip and try to fit it in some really tight windows. And so, Brian Kelly said last week that they were going to sort of tailor it to Garrett's strengths. So I would expect to, kind of rely on that vertical passing game. And then also in the run game, what's going to be fascinating is to see is if they do kind of mix it up schematically. We saw so much rely on inside zone and RPOs and, zone read and that kind of thing, those inside handoffs to running backs. It'll be interesting to see if maybe LSU does some different stuff in the run game because, they're not going to have Jaden Daniels' legs at their disposal. I think that'll be maybe the thing that changes the most.
One more for you, Wilson. Your time very much appreciated. Obviously, we kind of hinted at it there. Mike Denbrock no longer on staff at LSU. They will have to hire a new offensive coordinator. That decision, they're in a bowl prep and all and whatnot, I understand. But with a guy like Joe Sloan and Cortez Hankton filling in that role, how serious are they as candidates for that job full-time?
From what I understand, they're certainly serious candidates. And, Brian Kelly was asked about that, early this week, and he said how it would be foolish, were his words, to not consider the internal candidates for this, especially after LSU had the top-ranked offense in the country. And LSU definitely wants to keep them on staff. I mean, these are guys who have been proven recruiters at this point. They've done a good job of talent development once guys are on campus. You saw what Joe did with helped Jaden do this year, what LSU has gotten out of its receivers the last couple of years with Cortez. And so, they're certainly serious candidates for this, and this is a kind of a good audition, a good trial run to see how that would go, because they don't have as much experience as Mike Denbrock did when he came to LSU with calling plays. And so we'll kind of see how that goes, what it looks like with them as kind of the offensive brain trust, as it were, and, be able then for Brian Kelly to kind of make a full-on evaluation going into the offseason with having seen them as, actually the offensive coordinators in the game. But as I understand going into this, they are definitely candidates for this position.
Wilson Alexander from The Advocate covers LSU on Twitter at @WHAlexander_. Wilson, we appreciate the time. Thank you, and we'll do it again soon.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well. That is Wilson Alexander. Kind of setting the scene for us there. Boots on the ground in Tampa as LSU gets set to face Wisconsin in the ReliaQuest Bowl, put a button on the 2023 season. They'll do so on New Year's Day. And a lot of intrigue. That's a facilitator for Garrett Nussmeier. That's I like that word. And we went into that a lot yesterday too, as, fair expectation for Garrett in this game, that everybody wants to see him play well. Everybody wants to see Garrett Nussmeier go throw for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. But my take on it was kind of similar to that. He's got all these weapons out there, so you can expect him to play well. But we don't actually know a whole lot about Garrett Nussmeier. He's played in 17 games, but not really. Like, there's really only 4 where it's been extended, and each one of those circumstances has been different. So my thing for it is, yes, for sure, judge him, but understand there's still spring ball, there's still fall camp coming, all of that. This game, regardless of what he does, if he throws the 300 yards and 4 touchdowns and LSU wins, if he throws, 2 interceptions and 250 yards and LSU falls just short, that isn't the defining moment for his role going forward at LSU, at least in my opinion. There's still plenty more to be determined. It's not the be-all, end-all, good or bad with what happened. So it's going to be very, very interesting to watch, and it's one of the reasons I know I'm very excited about this game. And then there's the defense, which we really didn't even get into with Wilson. We kind of ran out of time a little bit there. I could have done a whole segment on what we should expect from the defense, because you talk about set talking points potentially for the offseason. Man, they're going to be under a microscope. And we talked about it a little bit yesterday, where with Wisconsin wanting to throw the ball a little bit more in this game, no Braylon Allen, Tanner Mordecai has been more than capable in his career at throwing the football. Maybe not so much in Madison so far, but against this secondary, there's still a test there. And if there's one spot where Wisconsin hasn't suffered from the opt-outs as much, it is in the receiving corps. So a lot to look for. Garrett Nussmeier and the LSU defense on Monday. All right, we're late. Got to grab a break. Come back on the other side. I've put it off as long as possible. We'll talk Saints-Bucs, get you a final look at the final injury report, some things that Dennis Allen had to say as well. That is next on the other side. It's AFR, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
AFR.
Get Gordon and get it done. Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys. You know where to find them. On Twitter, at Get Gordon, on Facebook, at Get Gordon, on Instagram, at Get Gordon, on TikTok, at Get Gordon, or you can always go to getgordon.com. That's getgordon.com. As we head toward the new year, I remind you all the time, if you've been in an accident, it's not your fault. Do what injured people in our state have done for more than 30 years. Get Gordon and get it done. No matter where you are in Louisiana, you can give them a buzz at 888-8888, 888-8888, or go to getgordon.com. Yo, don't go it alone. It's just not worth it. You can try to handle things yourself, but honestly, it's just not worth it. Let Gordon and his team get what you deserve from the insurance company if you've been injured. Go to getgordon.com. That's getgordon.com. And, of course, I always encourage you to visit gordongives.com so you can see the many ways that Gordon and his team are giving back to our state in so many ways. It's Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys. 888-8888, or go to getgordon.com. Get Gordon and get it done.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Would a couple that just came from a couples massage have any use for the massage seats of the Infiniti QX60? Yes, it appears they would. With driver and passenger massage seats, mute all your notifications and feel
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
Brought to you by Shawbills Tire and Auto Service, ShawbillsTire.com. 18 locations in South Louisiana. Find the location nearest you at ShawbillsTire.com. Bumper-to-bumper auto service and name brand tires at wholesale prices. They will always find a way to get you the best possible price for the best possible tires on the road. That's what they do at Shawbills. And when they get you in by selling you the best tires, the cheapest price possible, they're going to treat you like family, and they're going to treat you so good you're going to keep coming back year after year after year every time you need anything for your vehicle. Tires rotated, oil changed, check engine light on, brakes squeaking, whatever's wrong with your vehicle, bring it to Shawbills. Let them give it the once-over. And you can always schedule online, so it's convenient. ShawbillsTire.com. Find the location nearest you at ShawbillsTire.com. Shop tires online at ShawbillsTire.com. Be sure to ask about the Shawbills credit card as well, because you can save $50 off your first purchase when you use the Shawbills credit card only at Shawbills.
All right, Saints and Bucs Sunday in Tampa. Saints have to win their last 2 games and then hope Tampa loses to Carolina in order to win the NFC South and make the playoffs. They lost on Sunday, and the Saints are officially eliminated from playoff contention. Injury report, some good and bad news on it for the Saints. The good news, Jordan Howden, of course, who was did not practice on Wednesday with an illness, was back limited yesterday, full participant today. He is in and ready to go, which is that's big because obviously no Marcus May. Howden has filled in very, very nicely for him, and will continue to do that. Lonnie Johnson, another safety, he is out. Did not practice at all this week. Game status officially out. So while you do have Howden, your number's a little thin there at safety. Ryan Ramczyk officially out for the game. 3rd straight game that he will miss. Again, assume Landon Young will fill in that spot. The bigger concern is the future for Ryan Ramczyk. Of course, yesterday when he met with the media, mentioned that he possibly will need offseason knee surgery. When we talked to Mike Triplett, Mike talked about the injury itself and how there's no cartilage there in the knee. It's just bone on bone. It's an extremely painful process. We didn't think it was kind of indicated that he'd be out when he spoke with the media yesterday, he being Ryan Ramczyk. Now you know that is official. Dennis Allen, when he met with the media earlier today, of course, was asked about that with Ramczyk and mentioned that there's been a lot of communication going on between Ryan Ramczyk and the doctors. No decision has been made yet on that surgery. If it takes place in the offseason, if Ramczyk even attempts to give it a go maybe next week against the Falcons, potentially, I guess. Obviously, pain tolerance is going to be the number one thing, but are the Saints fighting for anything at that point, or have they been eliminated from playoff contention? That will be an important distinction with that as well, I would imagine. But the main thing from Dennis Allen today on Ramczyk, no decision made yet. They're still evaluating, and there's been plenty of communication with the doctors there. Isaiah Foskey officially listed as questionable. Chris Olave looks like he's going to be a go. There's no injury designation. He was limited again today with the ankle. I know he spoke with the media earlier and said that he's still fighting through that injury, so he won't be 100%, but no injury designation. So you should have you should have Chris Olave, which is a great sign. Alvin Kamara was added to the injury report today due to an illness, and he is officially listed as questionable. That is going to be something to watch because of something we're fixing to get into with Kendre Miller. Also should note that punter Lou Hedley also did not practice, questionable with an illness. It's going around, y'all, and the Saints have had their bouts with it really throughout this season, and this is just the latest, iteration of that. Mentioned Kamara and why that could be significant. Kendre Miller limited all week with the ankle. He is also officially questionable. Brooke Kirchhofer from New Orleans Football about 40 minutes ago had this tweet about Miller per a source. The injury is lingering, the ankle that we're talking about, and it bothered him during Friday's practice. While Dennis Allen said game time decision and the official designation is questionable, Brooke notes from her source it's trending in the wrong direction for Kendre Miller to play on Sunday. So you really need Alvin Kamara to get over this illness that he's suffering from and be able to go. That's going to make you extremely thin at running back, where Jamal Williams is really, your guy to go to there if you don't have Miller or Kamara. So that is very significant when looking at the Saints injury report. And the last thing to really touch on from a Saints perspective on the injury report before we get to the Bucs is Peyton Turner. He was limited again today in practice. He's officially listed as questionable, but Dennis Allen, when he met with the media, noted that he doesn't expect Peyton Turner to be activated this week, but had a good week of practice and is getting closer to playing again for the Saints. So again, we'll see if that actually takes place maybe next week, and if the Saints' status in the playoffs, how much impact that has on that. But Turner, toe, not expected to be activated, but officially listed as questionable. For the Buccaneers, Shaq Barrett out, didn't practice. Carlton Davis out, didn't practice. Those are really the two big ones for Tampa. Carlton Davis, stalwart in that secondary, did not pass through concussion protocol. So hopefully the Saints passing game, they can take advantage of that. Antoine Winfield, for what it's worth, has been playing very, very well, especially last week against the Jaguars. And then the other one that we touched on yesterday was Chris Godwin. He was added to the injury report with a double designation, knee, but also rest. I mean, veteran rest day, probably maybe to just get him off of that knee, and that would be supported with today. He was back out there in a full capacity and is good to go. He will be active and playing against the Saints on Sunday. That is massive because he went off in the first meeting, and with the Saints being a little thin in the secondary, not only will you not have Marshawn Lattimore to cover Mike Evans, that domino effect, like we talked about with Mike Triplett yesterday, is going to take somebody off of Chris Godwin as well. And as I just said, he torched you in the first meeting. So that's huge for the Buccaneers to have him. Them not having Carlton Davis and Shaq Barrett hopefully bodes well for a New Orleans Saints offense that, man, they have got to get it going in general, but also against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We'll have more on that when we give our final thoughts and a prediction on the game a little bit later on in hour number 3. Right now, we're going to grab a break, come back. We're going to take a break from football, talk a little bit of Pelicans. They got a win last night, a much-needed win against the Utah Jazz to kick off a 5-game homestand. Big one on New Year's Eve coming up against the Lakers as they look to avenge that in-season tournament loss. Jake Madison from the Locked On Pelicans podcast will join us to talk about it all and just give us a little bit of an update on the Pelicans next on AFR.
AFR.
AFR is brought to you by the Watermark Hotel and the Renaissance Hotel, two beautiful hotel properties in Baton Rouge, the Watermark downtown, the Renaissance Southtown right there on Bluebonnet. And when it comes to hosting your event, both the Watermark and the Renaissance are perfect. The Watermark is a gorgeous, elegant spot in downtown Baton Rouge. That wedding reception, that smaller gathering, that meeting space, they can do it. They've kept so much of the history and tradition of that iconic building while modernizing it. The Gregory is a great restaurant inside of the Watermark as well. And then, of course, the Renaissance Hotel, Southtown, right there on Bluebonnet in Baton Rouge. It's more modern. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous hotel property at the Renaissance Hotel where they have meeting space that can accommodate up to 500 people, 7,000 square foot of meeting space, perfectly located right off of Bluebonnet and I-10. It's the Watermark and the Renaissance Hotels in Baton Rouge.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
The world's leaders in obesity research, obesity medicine, and obesity science are right here.
We're doing something that no one's ever done, or trying to answer a question that no one's ever asked before.
Pennington is a real jewel when it comes to research.
We are finding the solutions to the world's worst chronic disease, which is obesity. Louisiana needs Pennington Biomedical.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps are held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
The interior of an Infiniti is thoughtfully designed to be all about you. And by you, we mean every version of you. Because there's luxury you can feel, and there's luxury that lets you feel. Infinitely you. Experience luxury like never before with
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
Pelicans got a much-needed win last night, 112-105, their first win on a 5-game homestand, and also snapped a 3-game home losing streak, defeating the Utah Jazz. Get a little bit of a recap from that and look forward to the upcoming schedule as well. We'll welcome on Jake Madison, host of the Locked On Pelicans podcast. He's on Twitter at NolaJake. Jake, appreciate the time. As always, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on to talk some hoops.
Absolutely, man. So, look, kind of mentioned it there off the top. Snapped a 3-game losing streak for the Pelicans at home. Their first win on a 5-game home stand as well. It's also their first win over the Utah Jazz this year. What was different last night for New Orleans than in the previous 2 meetings with the Jazz?
I think it's not just the previous couple meetings with the Jazz, the previous couple of games that they've had, too, is you saw better offensive execution late in the game. The Pelicans did have a double-digit lead in this one. The Utah Jazz took the lead in the fourth quarter, but then New Orleans more or less just out-executed the Utah Jazz. They finally got some better spacing. It allowed Zion Williamson to have some room to kind of thrive down low, to attack the basket, to score, and then dish to teammates who then made their shots. I think it's notable that Trey Murphy hit 2 big threes late in this game that really were the daggers that ended this game against the Utah Jazz. They've needed his shooting out there. The spacing has been poor with some of the starters, but you put a shooter like that and good things happen. You saw Zion have room to operate. You saw Brandon Ingram have more room to operate, and it just kind of unclogged everything that had been backing up the Pelicans more or less when it comes to their offense. And you saw them struggle on the road to the Utah Jazz late in games, not being able to execute because they were so one-dimensional, where teams can just focus on Zion, Brandon Ingram. Now with other guys out there, the right kind of combination of lineups, I think you saw them kind of break through and get that victory.
So you mentioned kind of their closing out games, and that has been a big problem. So not just against Jazz, Timberwolves, the Memphis Grizzlies definitely come to mind there with the close losses. You mentioned, obviously, offensively. Is this what's your confidence level, I should say, that they can build off of what happened last night and improve in those fourth quarters?
Yeah, look, the ability to get better is certainly there. When you look at the 14 losses they have right now, 9 of them have been when they've had a double-digit lead over that team, and that team's come back to beat them, right? Memphis being the obvious example in the 2 most recent games that they've played with them. So they have the ability to go out and get these leads, hold on to them, and just win games. But it has been just a spacing issue late in the fourth quarter for this team. The fact is they went with Trey Murphy over Herb Jones in this game to close, and I think that was really important for what they were trying to do as well. They got a little bit healthy and got Larry Nance Jr. back in this game. He was really big for the team, hitting a couple of big shots, a couple of key dunks, and letting them play that small ball style they want. Hopefully they can just continue with it. We've seen head coach Willie Green be a little bit stubborn at times, kind of revert to some of those too many defensive guys out there on the court lineups with Dyson Daniels, Herb Jones, Jose Alvarado, just really non-shooters out there that muck up the offense. But the fact is they closed with Trey Murphy. In overtime against the Memphis Grizzlies, he played the entirety of that overtime period too. And so I think if they start to include him more, maybe kind of index his minutes, handcuff his minutes alongside Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram, that's really how they're going to have a breakthrough, because there is a good team here that's kind of just being held back by themselves and what they're doing right now. And if they can figure that out, I think you're going to really see this team take off, and they're going to need to. This has been the easy part of their schedule. In January, it starts to get a whole lot harder, and in the Western Conference where everyone's beating each other up, you need these wins. They are really important. So hopefully they figure this out sooner rather than later. I can't say I'm the most confident, just given what we've seen from head coach Willie Green, but he's starting to make at least some of the right changes that you want to see, and hopefully it starts translating to wins.
In that answer, you mentioned the return of Larry Nance, and that's one thing I wanted to go to next. Why is that so big for this team to have him back?
It allows them to do just what they want to do defensively, which is play small. They like to switch on the perimeter when teams run pick and rolls at them, right? They're not a big rim protection team. Jonas Valanciunas, even as their starting center, isn't a rim protection guy. There's not really another big man on this roster that takes away the rim, a la like a Rudy Gobert or some of those kind of defensive centers in the league. So the way they eliminate rim pressure is they don't let you get there in the first place, and they do that by switching. So you need a big man who can defend a guard, let's say, or can defend a wing. And when they run Jonas Valanciunas, he's just simply not capable of doing that. If a guard gets switched onto him, they're going to blow by him and get to the rim and score, and it leads to bad things for the Pelicans. So with Larry Nance Jr. back, it allows them to play the defensive game plan that they want. And I think that's going to be really important for this team going forward. This was the best game we've seen from Larry Nance Jr. probably in the past 2 years. He hasn't scored in double figures, or hadn't scored in double figures until I think it was January or February of last year. That's a real long time. So the fact that he was able to come in and make this kind of immediate impact, raise his level of play, I think is going to be really important for this team going forward. Beyond Jonas Valanciunas, there isn't much depth at the center position, even the backup big man spot, right? Yeah. You have Zion, who's going to play the 4. He'll play small ball 5 a little bit, but you don't want to run that too much. And then you have Cody Zeller, and that's about it. So it's really Larry Nance Jr. or bust for the Pelicans right now. So getting him back, I think, really just started to get them quality backup big man minutes they've been missing for the past month or so. That has definitely led and contributed to some of the losses that they've had. So getting him back just kind of fills this glaring hole that they have, particularly if he plays at that level of play again.
All right, let's look forward onto the schedule. And, I mean, New Year's Eve in the blender with the Lakers coming to town, that should be insane. Like, the vibe in that building, in that city, on that day, with that team, should be wild. How do the Pelicans avoid what happened in Vegas on Sunday when you have all that fanfare around that matchup in a really important game because a massive road trip looms?
Yeah, look, to avoid what happened in Vegas is everyone just needs to try harder than they did, right? A 44-point loss is really just show up and have some pride and, like, do your job and be a professional. Even if you lose by 5 at that point, it's better than the showing that they had in Las Vegas, where Zion took a lot of heat after that game, right?
Yeah.
But it was really everyone who was bad in that game. No one played well, I thought, other than maybe Herb Jones, who was really the only one trying. So let's go out and, compete for 48 minutes here. But right now, the Lakers are struggling a little bit, and this is the type of trap game that you can see for the Pelicans, I think, right? The Lakers have really struggled over the past 10 games. They're probably going to go in with some momentum. The Pelicans will, looking at this game, going, we can beat them. We're at home. As you said, the Smoothie King Center is going to be fired up for this matchup. But they can't take this team for granted, right? Anthony Davis, who's been averaging over 30 and 10, I think, over these past 9 games or so, as the Lakers have slumped, and no one's really talking about him, and he's playing some of the best basketball of his career. And we've seen he loves to play against his former team in New Orleans and put up big-time performances here. So they're going to need to find a way to defend Anthony Davis, who's playing, arguably one of the best players in basketball right now. They don't really have a great answer for that, right? I think you're going to see Herb Jones play on him. I think you'll see Trey Murphy on him. Certainly it'll be Valanciunas at times, but I think that's an incredible mismatch in the favor of the Lakers. It might come down to how well does a guy like Larry Nance Jr. defend Anthony Davis, and can you limit him? LeBron, if he goes off like he did in the in-season tournament game, you lose. There's just not a whole lot you can do. He's one of the best players of all time for a reason, right? But if he beats you, he beats you. You don't want Anthony Davis to beat you. You don't want some of these other role players to beat you, I think. And I think it's about limiting those guys, but it really does start with Anthony Davis. Having Herb Jones kind of press the point of attack is going to be really important, too. When D'Angelo Russell's out there, when Austin Reeves and some of those other guards for the Lakers are out there, press them. Don't let them pass the ball because they don't have anyone that can make entry passes to Anthony Davis. And as a big man, he is relying a little bit on others to create for him. And if you kind of limit that, you can almost take him out of the game without having to defend him too well. So I think that's an area that's going to be really key for the Pelicans in this matchup also.
Last one for you, Jake. Your time appreciated. Of course, Jake Madison, the host of the Locked On Pelicans podcast on Twitter at NOLAJake. Lakers and then the Nets. Aside from winning those 2 games and having a 3-2 record in this 5-game homestand, is there something else you can look at and say this was a positive for the Pelicans?
Yeah, I mean, it's adjusting the rotation. I've talked about this on Locked On Pelicans a lot recently. We've seen their just offense has been really struggling. It's been very stagnant. There's very clearly not the right kind of spacing. Even C.J. McCollum said that after that second loss to the Memphis Grizzlies. They need to get better spacing out there to just unlock Zion Williamson, to unlock Brandon Ingram. Those are very good players, and it doesn't feel like they're being put in position to succeed right now. So if you start seeing more of Trey Murphy, when they get Matt Ryan back, seeing him back into the rotation, maybe even Jordan Hawkins taking on a larger role, just to get better spacing to this team. They've proven they can defend at a high level. Now it's time to get the offense going because I think that's how you're going to win in the NBA in 2023, 2024. That's what they need to do. If we start to see more Trey Murphy, which we are, I think that's kind of a big win for this Pelicans team internally and can lead to a lot of success in the future.
Jake Madison, Locked On Pelicans podcast. Y'all get subscribed and follow him on Twitter at NOLAJake. Jake, we appreciate the time and the insight, man. Thank you. Happy New Year, and we'll do it again soon.
Happy New Year, and thanks for having me on. Absolutely.
So, Pellies get the win, 112-105 last night over the Jazz. They'll face the Lakers on New Year's Eve in the blender, and that is, I mean, you talk about powder keg. City of New Orleans get a little weird. New Year's Eve can get a little weird. and nobody likes the Lakers. So hopefully the Pellies get the win on Sunday. And we're talking about trying to close out that homestand with a win over the Nets. We're going to grab a break here momentarily, but first, DraftKings. Matt's going to tell you about them and big promotion with the NBA.
Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the promo code Baton Rouge. New customers, remember they're an official sports betting partner of the NBA. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, make a $5 bet, get $150 instantly in bonus bets. That's for betting just $5 on basketball, win or lose. New customers this week at the DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use the promo code Baton Rouge. It's safe, it's secure, it's reliable with 24/7 support. Deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. I even use Venmo whenever I'm withdrawing or depositing cash at the DraftKings Sportsbook. It's so easy, all the different options that you have. Just download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use the promo code Baton Rouge. New customers, make a $5 NBA bet, get $150 in bonus bets, instantly win or lose. You got NFL this weekend, of course. You can use the promo code Baton Rouge. 21 and older, physically present in Louisiana, select parishes only. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/basketball terms. Licensing partner Golden Nugget Lake Charles. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 1-800-426-2537.
All right, it's going to just about put a button here on hour number 2. We will grab a break, come back on the other side, and wrap things up with Tigers in the pros. Plenty still to get to in the third hour. We have yet to touch on Denver Harris and his decision to enter the transfer portal. We'll do that in the next hour. And I have some thoughts on LSU's quest for 10 wins and what it means and how important is it really. So we'll get to all that in the next hour as well. For now, as I said, break, Tigers in the pros to wrap up hour number 2 next.
AFR.
Love telling you about ProCharge EV. ProChargeEV.com, electric vehicle chargers for your home or your commercial building. ProChargeEV.com. ProCharge is a local company. They're right here in Baton Rouge. And they're a distributor for NLX, which is actually an Italian company, the #1 electric vehicle charger in the world. So you're dealing with a local company that's also partnered with the #1 EV charging company in the world. It's ProCharge EV, ProChargeEV.com. Go to the website, scroll down. You see the form you can fill out to get more information. But the bottom line is this, y'all. If you own a business, a commercial building, you got to have EV chargers. I told you a story. There's a medical group in town that called ProCharge, and they installed a bunch of EV chargers at their clinic because a handful of their doctors all drive Teslas. So they need EV chargers. Well, here you go. Amenity for your employees, amenity for your customers, a revenue generator. Tap to pay options are available. It's ProCharge. ProChargeEV.com.
Bayou Ford is taking $15,000 off MSRP on new 23 Ford Expedition. $15,000 off new Ford Expedition. And all new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
The importance of doing this Fortified program and offering it to people down here is number one, the only real chance you're going to get to do this is when you put on a new roof or build new. And through companies like HUDCO, who's kind of leading the way in this thing, it's going to offer the customers a huge advantage in the insurance market and the price of their insurance.
You know, we're not looking to make a fortune off fortifying. We're trying to give you a better product than our competitor at the moment. I'm trying to do something that he can. I'm trying to give you something better. So a lot of these insurance shops, you're getting a re-roof, you're only paying your deductible. Let's sit down and talk about the Fortified and let's see what it does to your insurance premium. You're getting a steal.
Yeah.
You're getting a brand new roof and a Fortified certificate for your deductible, essentially. And I think we're rocking and rolling.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Would a couple that just came from a couples massage have any use for the massage seats of the Infiniti QX60? Yes, it appears they would. With driver and passenger massage seats, mute all your notifications and feel infinitely you.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
Of course, bowl games for New Year's Day are happening, and just this weekend in general. A lot of the bowls had their joint coaches joint press conference. ReliaQuest Bowl did that today with Brian Kelly and Luke Fickle. We talked about that a little bit earlier. It was also for the Rose Bowl, and Nick Saban in retirement came up, not to Nick himself, to Kevin Steele and a few players. We'll tell you about that here momentarily, but first, Tigers in the Pros.
Tigers in the Pros. They still bleed purple and gold. They're just really rich now. Presented by Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry, where Baton Rouge gets engaged.
We'll start with Naz Reid, Minnesota Timberwolves. Since Matt's not here, I'll say it for him. Naz should have stayed. 9 points for Naz last night in 18 minutes off the bench. 3 of 5 shooting for the game. 3 of 5 shooting from the three. So if Naz Reid was going to put it up last night, it was only coming from behind the arc. 4 rebounds added to the total. 2 assists rounded out his night. Plus 12. Really, really efficient for Naz Reid, and the Timberwolves got another win. We told you, was it Wednesday? I think it was Wednesday, about a career night for Duop Reith with the Portland Trailblazers. Not as great news to report this time. He was a scratch last night with lower back soreness in the Blazers' loss to the Spurs. So we'll keep you updated there as that injury continues to progress. To the G League, and the Rio Grande Valley Vipers, and Darius Days shot 39% from the floor, 12 points in the game last night, 5 rebounds for Days, 5 of 13 shooting. Did not make a three, which is shocking. As Darius Days, that's kind of a trademark of him, but not last night. Cold shooting night from behind the arc. His team did, however, get the win. That is Tigers in the Pros, and it's brought to you by Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. Looking to pop the question, engagement rings, there's only one stop, and that's Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. Anniversary, there's only one stop, and that's Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. If you just want to buy diamonds, there's only one stop, and it's Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. Proud to bring you Tigers in the Pros every single day. All right, before we hit the break here, mentioned it right off the top of the segment that you have media availability for all these bowls. Today in Los Angeles for the Rose Bowl, it was coordinators going for Alabama and for Michigan. And Kevin Steele, the defensive coordinator for Alabama, and a long-time Nick Saban assistant, Kevin Steele. This is his third time working under Nick. That's one of those things, definitely, just when I think I'm out, you pull me right back in. So a hell of a time commitment to work for Nick Saban. Kevin Steele, but you think someone who knows him well, working for him that often, was asked about the possibility of Nick Saban retiring if he captures his 7th national championship. This has been a storyline, not just right now with Bama in the playoff, but all season long about Nick Saban's future. And Kevin Steele acknowledged that. Said he's heard it. It's always going to be out there, and nobody knows the answer except for Nick Saban. But he also did mention there's no signs of Nick Saban wanting to step away and ride off into the sunset. For what it's worth, some players as well, Justin Eboigbe, senior defensive lineman, mentioned a quote from Nick Saban that he always says when retirement's bringing up. This is Eboigbe quoting Nick Saban. "Why would I walk away and do what?" That's kind of always what you hear when it comes to Nick Saban. What else is he going to do, right? He likes to coach football. He likes to go to the lake house. Well, that's about it when it comes to Nick Saban. But what I will say as well is Nick's never just going to come out and say he's retiring if for no other reason, recruiting purposes. It's the old Steve Spurrier line. Whenever he was asked how much longer, he'd always say 4 to 5 years, just so recruits would know that he'd be there for their cycle. Nick has loosened the reins a little bit, though, hadn't he? A lot more television, the weekly segment on the Pat McAfee show, the hard coaching job for him. The game's changing. We'll see. For what it's worth, Nick Saban, in my opinion, is going to coach college football forever and we'll never be rid of him. But hopefully one day I will be wrong. We'll see if it's this year. Hour 3 is next.
AFR.
As we get on down the road, brought to you by the Williamson Eye Center. Call 924-2020, 924-2020, or go to WilliamsonEye.com. That's WilliamsonEye.com. Been reminding you, we are really cutting it close now. But if you do want to get in before the end of the year and get that refractive procedure done, maybe you have SFA funds that don't roll over. Use it or lose it. They're going to expire at the end of the year. You got a week to go, and they could probably get you in next week. Might be a challenge, but it's worth a shot. WilliamsonEye.com. That's WilliamsonEye.com. Or call 924-2020. That's 924-2020. Dr. Blake Williamson and the gang just do awesome work. They're wishing everybody a Merry Christmas and certainly happy holidays to everybody in the whole listening area. And as we move into 2024, if you're thinking about ditching contacts and glasses forever, the Williamson Eye Center can help. Call 924-2020, 924-2020, or go to WilliamsonEye.com.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $10,000 off MSRP on new 23 Jeep Grand Cherokee, $10,000 off new Jeep Grand Cherokee, and all new Bayou Automotive vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Hey, boat owners, check it out. It is the holiday season, which means it's time to buy yourself a gift by taking your boat to the next level with our friends at Front to Back Boat Service. Now is the perfect time to upgrade your boat and get it ready for that warmer weather, whether that's trolling motors, HD sonar, anything and everything. The Sherman family's been at it for 30 years, and Devin's going to take you through 30 more. Find them on Facebook at Front to Back Boat Service or go to fronttobackboatservice.com.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
It was a humid day, barefoot children play, looking for that summer shade. Time just slips away. Oh, Louisiana, some kind of hold on me. Like cypress stumps, your roots are planted deep inside of me.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
The interior of an Infiniti is thoughtfully designed to be all about you. And by you, we mean every version of you. Because there's luxury you can feel, and there's luxury that lets you feel. Infinitely you. Experience luxury like never before with Infinity Premium Care, included with the 2023 QX80 at your local retailer.
Christine Lisi. Jaguars quarterback Trevor Lawrence ruled out of Sunday's game against the Panthers with a shoulder injury. C.J. Beathard starts in the place of Lawrence, who will miss his first ever NFL game. A high ankle sprain will sideline Dolphins' second leading receiver Jalen Waddle against the Ravens Sunday, according to Coach Mike McDaniel. In the wake of Michigan's sign-stealing scandal, Alabama is taking extra precautions ahead of Monday's CFP semifinal game. Several Crimson Tide players saying they can't take film home and watch it on their own time. They have to watch it at the practice facility. College Game Day host Reese Davis.
These two teams in Pasadena are the two that people hate the most. Alabama for two reasons. One, because they've won so much, and Michigan because of all of the Connor Stallion sign-stealing stuff. So, this is going to be fascinating theater, whether you're a Michigan or Alabama fan.
Reese Davis on Unsportsmanlike. Wolverines Crimson Tide Monday 4 Eastern, ESPN Radio and ESPN. NBA Suns guard Bradley Beal returns tonight from a high ankle sprain against the Hornets.
Hey, it's Michelle Smallman from Unsportsmanlike. I just want to wish everyone a happy and healthy holiday and a happy new year. We'll see you in 2024. It's Unsportsmanlike, 6 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge Studios.
Let's ride.
Hour number 3 of a Friday edition of AFR off and running. Glad to have you along with us. Final hour of AFR in 2023. Musso filling in for Moscona. Casey Gaines and Paul O'Neill along for the ride. Mentioned it's the last hour of AFR in 2023, and it's going to be jam-packed with football talk, with LSU getting set to face Wisconsin in the ReliaQuest Bowl and the Saints fighting for their playoff lives against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Sunday. We'll cover it all here for you in our final 60 minutes. Do want to start with the news late last night and then earlier today about LSU cornerback Denver Harris entering the transfer portal. And the overall take on this is it's not a shock. It's kind of the same thing we talked about with Deuce Chestnut on Wednesday. It's not a shock. It's just now official that Denver is into the transfer portal. The intrigue that kind of surrounds it, though, is known, right? I mean, right? We're gonna kind of go through some things that Brian Kelly said throughout the year and even before the year regarding Denver Harris that tell you everything you need to know about why this didn't work out at LSU. But what I really want to do after that is take this conversation broader and look at LSU's performance under Brian Kelly in the transfer portal as a whole, because that did come up last night and again a little bit earlier this morning when this news happened. And what I found is also shouldn't really be surprising. But let's talk Denver Harris specifically for a minute. Obviously, everyone knew the baggage that came along with this, the indefinite suspension at Texas A&M at his freshman year. Then he hops in the portal. You immediately knew LSU was going to be on him. There's the tie to LSU. He's a former 5-star. You needed help in the secondary. It made too much sense. and you knew the risk that kind of came along with it. And Brian Kelly was asked about that back in March when they were going through spring and Denver Harris had signed. Brian Kelly talked about going through with this, signing Denver Harris with the known risk, despite the known risk and the off-the-field issues.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we did a lot of research. This was not a decision that we just said, here's a great player. He had to fit. We felt like, we did our due diligence in terms of his background, and, there's an affiliation with LSU here with the family. He had a lot of people speak on his behalf. He had a number of interviews with Coach House and myself, and we felt with the culture in which we have put together here that he would make it here because the culture is really strong. And it's proven to be that he's done well early on, and he has no choice. He has to make it.
It was the end of that bite that everyone kept replaying, where we feel like the culture is strong enough here that he could make it. He has no choice. He has to make it. So there was going to be that adjustment period that he was going to have to kind of learn a new way to do things. And I think everyone, the speculation about what kind of led to where you are now, late in the season, it got really quiet around that. Anytime Brian Kelly was asked about Denver Harris and Deuce Chestnut for that matter, it was always, they're not with us right now. We'll have a sit down, have a conversation and things of that nature. But starting with that cut that we just played in March, it continued. There were moments throughout the year where Brian Kelly told you what was going on when he was constantly asked, why is Denver Harris not on the field? Is there a chance? What's his status? Things of that nature. This is from September the 1st when Brian Kelly was asked this. Before the first game of the year, he's asked about, okay, well, how's Denver Harris coming along? Can you see him against Florida State?
Denver is in that process of learning how to do things a little bit differently than he had been doing it before. So it's becoming, clear to him what he needs to do on a day-to-day basis to find the field here. And look, he's got a lot of ability, but it's more in this program than just having athletic ability. He's got to do the work in the classroom. He's got to do the work, in terms of the day-to-day details and making good choices, good decisions, and he's making progress there. But, it's a journey for him right now.
And 10 days later, on September the 11th, Brian Kelly again asked about Denver Harris, and the refrain was pretty similar to what he just said in that previous cut.
He's making progress. There's a lot of work to be done, but I'm not going to put a guy on the field unless, he is committed to our process. He is not there yet, but I don't know if there's any one guy I can say in our program has got it down yet, but he is committed to it. So if you're committed to it, we're going to work with you. It's the guys that are not committed to it, the guys that don't want to do the little things the right way, that we're going to let you figure it out, and we'll let you figure it out watching. He tried that. He didn't like watching. So he's doing a good job.
Then in October, Brian Kelly was asked again, gave a really short answer, said he's maturing, and by the middle of October, Denver Harris was inactive and you didn't see him again, and now he's in the transfer portal. When you listen to what Brian, even though it got quiet towards the end, when you listen to what he said earlier, the way he talked about it, the culture is strong enough that we think he can make it, and he has no choice. He has to make it. It's a journey for him. He's learning to do things a different way. It's not just about talent and ability in this program. It's about how we do things in this program. I'm not going to put a player on the field who isn't committed to our process, and he's not there yet. We have ways to work with people. If you're not committed, you can watch. He didn't like watching. It's a risk you knew you were taking, and it's unfortunate that it ended this way. And it's unfortunate for Denver Harris because he is an extremely talented player. There's just been things he can't shake that have prevented his talent from being displayed now at two different schools. You wish him the best of luck going forward. I know I certainly do, because I want to see people reach their potential and be able to put the immense talent that he has on display. And yes, it is unfortunate that it won't happen at LSU. But while I have a few minutes, I did want to dovetail that into a bigger conversation about LSU's performance in the transfer portal, because after you lose Deuce Chestnut, after you lose Denver Harris, two guys who were highly thought of coming in as transfers at a big position of need for LSU this year, and then you saw the performance that unit had without those two guys reaching full potential. I think LSU's performance in the transfer portal obviously has come under a microscope a little bit, where it could be viewed right now as a failure, but I wonder as a whole if that opinion is just recency bias. So what I did is I went back through the 2022 transfer class, the 2023 transfer class, and looked at each player and kind of gave them a designation as a hit, a miss, solid contributor, or then a depth piece. And there were some that came through to kind of just see what it really looked like. In 2022, LSU signed 19 guys out of the transfer portal. Let's start with Jaden Daniels. Unquestioned hit. We can all agree on that, right? There's nothing else to be said. The guy won a Heisman Trophy. That was a hit. Seven Banks at the cornerback position. I didn't actually label that hit, miss, solid piece, or depth. I labeled that kind of a NA, non-applicable, because, I mean, he came here with medical problems, then had the scary moment against Auburn, and because of that, it never really materialized. So you can kind of, unfortunately, throw that one out. We'll never know there. Greg Brooks Jr., that's a hit. He was great for you in the 2022 season, was playing really well early in this season, and of course we know the scary medical emergency that he's been dealing with his brain and things of that nature, and you continue to wish him a speedy recovery. But I will count that as a hit because he was producing very, very well for LSU. Mekhi Wingo, hit. He was an All-American, hit. West Weeks went with solid contributor, depth piece. He's contributed a lot on special teams, maybe not at the linebacker position as you would want. Colby Fields, linebacker. I went ahead and labeled that one a miss in 2022. I don't know how much you really expected him to contribute, but he came from an SEC program. You thought, okay, that good enough to play, South Carolina or be recruited to South Carolina in an SEC school. Can you go forward? Kyron Lacey, solid contributor right now, really improved from last year to this year. Don't totally want to call it a hit yet. He potentially has another year, so solid. Jarek Bernard-Converse, hit. Miles Frazier, hit. He started every game. Tremont Shorts, depth piece in his final year. Move on. Mekhi Garner, that was a hit. Princeton Malbrew went with the depth piece. He's played a lot on special teams and things of that nature. He's moved from defensive end to linebacker. Colby Richardson, labeled that as a miss. They wanted him to be a starting cornerback. He started last season as a starting cornerback, and it didn't work out. He started 5 of your first 6 games. It didn't work out, so we'll go miss. Noah Kane, solid depth piece, 10 touchdowns last season, which ranked, I believe, 4th in the SEC. Running backs, or maybe at a little higher. I don't have it in front of me for me. Solid piece, but never really carved himself out as the starter, but definitely not a miss. Joe Fouché, that was a hit/solid performer there for LSU. Played in 7 games, had a few injuries. Jay Bramblett is the punter, gave him a hit. You didn't see him much this year, so I'm not going to dock the inconsistent performance. Greg Clayton, solid performer. He really saved you in special teams by catching the ball. And then Slade Roy, long snapper, sure hit. I haven't seen snaps go over the punter's head or, botch snaps on field goals, so we'll give that a hit. When you look at 2023, LSU signed 13 transfers. Denver Harris, who we just talked about, that's a miss. Aaron Anderson, I went solid performer / miss because you haven't been able to see him enough that I'm totally on it. But the one thing he was kind of brought here to do in the immediacy was the return game, and it didn't work out. So that's why I went there. He's going to have another year. He could easily work himself into just solid contributor. J.K. Johnson went with the NA there on that non-equal. The guy broke a bone in his leg in camp. We never saw him. Jury's out. I'm not going to call that a miss or a hit or anything like that. Jalen Lee went with solid depth. When they needed him this year, he was out there. We'll see if he can materialize a little bit more. Deuce Chestnut obviously was a miss. Logan Diggs, that was a hit. Braden Swinson went with hit, solid performer. Gave him the hit because of how he performed at the end of this year, and we'll see. He's going to have another year, should be back, and maybe can really turn into a great pass rusher at LSU because he showed flashes towards the end. Ovia Gofu went with miss. You thought he was going to come in, a veteran guy from Texas, had history with Brian Kelly, thought he was going to come in and take that jack spot, didn't do it. Braden Swinson beat him out there, so we'll go miss there. Omar Spates, I went with miss. Omar played a lot of football for LSU, but regressed. It's an first-team all Pac-12 guy, freshman All-American at Oregon State, 89 tackles last season, another 80-plus tackle season the year before that. You expected him to come in and contribute that, and instead, yes, there were some injuries, but you saw when he was down, a guy like Whit Weeks really flash, and Omar was never really able. It didn't translate all the way from the Pac-12 to the SEC. So for what you expected him to be coming in to what he was, I had to go with a miss there on that one. Paris Shand, solid, and then that piece, Mason Lunsford, that piece so far. Jordan Jefferson did label as a hit. He was one of your best defensive linemen all year. Zy Alexander, solid contributor, probably your best cornerback. Ended up with the season-ending injury. And then Andre Sam went solid/miss because he played really, really hard. At some points in the year, he looked overmatched. So when you go through that, 32 players, 10 came out as unquestioned hits. A third, unquestioned hits of those guys. But you did have 6 in there that you look at unquestioned misses. And all of them were at cornerback and linebacker. And that's where it comes in. That's where you need to do better because the rest of them have been solid. 12 solid in depth piece guys. You had 2 of them that you didn't really have anything. When you look at LSU's approach in the portal, I don't think it's broken. I don't think they've failed there. I think they've actually been pretty darn good, except for 2 positions, and that's where they need to get better. And it doesn't just have to be in the portal. You can do it in high school recruiting, which is something Brian Kelly has talked an awful lot about, wanting the retention that they have and now being able to build it through the high school ranks and develop. But when you look at them as a whole, I think it can be considered recency bias. And because it's at 2 big positions of need that, yes, they need to figure out, but that magnified it so much more. They've been very good offensively there. They've been good on the defensive line. It's been linebacker and cornerback, and that's what they need to figure out, whether it be in the portal or in high school recruiting. And you've seen some attrition here. There most likely will be some type of change on the staff as well defensively. We'll see what that leads to. But to say LSU's failed in the portal totally, I think is flat out wrong. So we'll see where they go from here. But thought that was an interesting exercise because did see that a lot. Kind of after this news that, man, it's fallen apart for them and they haven't been as successful in the portal as maybe they should be. We're going to grab a break, come back, continue the conversation around LSU football, but this time, 10 wins. You've heard it a lot. How important is it really for LSU to get to 10 wins in back-to-back seasons? We'll talk about that next on AFR.
AFR.
AFR is brought to you by River Cities 1 Hour Air, where they're always on time or you don't pay a dime. 752-0001, 752-0001, or 1hourbr.com. If your heater isn't keeping up, funny noises, funny smells, call our friends at River Cities 1 Hour Air. They're always on time or you don't pay a dime. They'll get the job done right the first time. I love reading these 5-star Google reviews. This one came in from Cassandra B., who said, Cody Smith, the technician, has serviced our home before, and each time he was personable, professional, and courteous. He's knowledgeable of his profession. I have no complaints with any of the 1 Hour employees. They do excellent work. It's River Cities 1 Hour Air. Look for the big yellow vans and trucks with a giant clock on the side. You will always be thrilled with the level of customer service that they provide and the technicians that come into your home. And, of course, they save you time and money. Mention the Moscona special. They'll always save you $30 off your system repair at River Cities 1 Hour Air. 752-0001, where they're always on time or you don't pay a dime.
Bayou Ford is taking $15,000 off MSRP on new 23 Ford Expedition. $15,000 off new Ford Expedition. And all new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Yo, Jake here from my friends over at Community Steel Company located in Gonzales, Louisiana. The local place you can turn to for all of your metal building needs. Notice I said local, not Houston, not Dallas, not Atlanta, but right here in Gonzales. Visit them at their brand new state-of-the-art website at communitysteelco.com or or pick up the phone and give them a call today to answer all of your questions on your metal buildings, roofing and sheet metal, and any other steel needs you or your business need at 225-647-2020.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Step inside an Infiniti QX50, and you'll find a suite of driver-focused features tailored to your tastes. But most
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
Let me remind you about Traction, TractionSports.com, TractionSports.com, Traction, where champions are made. You want your son or daughter to reach their absolute best in whatever sport it is they play, Traction can help. You know, I've told you about Traction over the years, going into Traction and seeing professional athletes from so many different sports who maybe, you know, played collegiately in Louisiana and they come back to train, or even athletes who didn't play collegiately here, but by virtue of their travels throughout the country in different places, have met people or have found out about Traction. They'll come train here in the off season. They'll even come rehab injuries. Told you there was a really cool picture Traction over the summer where there was an NFL player for the Packers and a young football player from here in the Baton Rouge area. They took a picture side by side at Traction Physical Therapy because they were both rehabbing the same injury, both there at the same facility. It's Traction. TractionSports.com, TractionSports.com to learn more, right there on Burbank. Traction, where champions are made.
Back here on a Friday edition of After Further Review, Musso filling in for Moscona. We're brought to you by Don Juan Cigar Bar. Speaking of Don Juan Cigar Bar, I should tell you, whiskey and wine for Monday, new location for that. Don Juan closed on New Year's Day, so had to call an audible. Walk-Ons Burbank, the original Walk-Ons, whiskey and wine on Monday, T-Bob and Scone. As soon as the game clock hits 0, they'll fire up whiskey and wine from there. So if you want to get by, just note the location change for this game. Instead of Don Juan Cigar Bar, the guys will be at Walk-Ons Burbank. All right, been talking about the ReliaQuest Bowl and the LSU Wisconsin game. One thing you'll hear on Whiskey and Wine, one thing you'll hear on the airwaves next week is, did LSU get to 10 wins? That's been something that has been talked about a lot when looking at this game, and how important is it? And the players have been asked that. They certainly seem to be very, very much aware of that goal and wanting to do it. It seems very important to them. When we had Wilson Alexander on at the end, or at the beginning of last hour, I should say, I asked him about it, and he said on a scale of 1 to 10, probably a 6 for him. It can show a little bit of consistency being built and what they want to do. But, does it really have that tangible of an effect on recruiting and things of that nature, especially given where expectation was for the season and whatnot, and all of that totally understandable. How important is it really, though? That is the question. I can tell you one thing, it's rare, but does that really make it as important? Just because it hasn't happened often, what does that actually add? LSU played their first football game in 1893, as many of you know. That's a long time ago. Their first 10-win season was in 1908. They went 10-0, the whole, claim a national title, whatever. That's not important, but that's that season. They didn't have another one until 1958. They did win a national title. In all, and we'll get into semantics here a little bit because it's stupid, but in all, LSU has 15 10-win seasons that are recognized. They actually have 17, but you had to vacate your wins in 2012 and 2013 because of the ineligibility. We all know about it, and Alexander and all that. It's stupid because they played the games. We all watched the games. I saw LSU win 10 games in both 2012 and 2013. You can't just say they didn't happen because one player out of an entire team was ineligible. That's stupid. So I like to say they have 17 10-win seasons. If you want to be accurate, NCAA correct on it, it's 15, whatever. Again, those games happened and we all saw it. LSU did not win 10 games in back-to-back seasons until 2005 and 2006. When you had your first 10-win season in 1908, you don't win it back-to-back 10-win season until 05-06. It is very hard to do. 4 times in LSU's history that are recognized, 4 times they've had back-to-back 10-win seasons. 05-06, 06-07, 2010-2011, 2018-2019. Again, they had 10 wins in 4 straight years from 2010 through 2013. But I digress. So 4 times when you've been playing football since 1893. It's rare. But does that really make it more important? I don't know if the rarity makes it more important. It makes it an impressive feat. But where the importance lies is getting the consistency that Brian Kelly has talked about since he was hired for this job. And I understand that not all 10-win seasons are created equal. Last year's 10-win season will feel very different from this one if LSU gets to the goal and beats Wisconsin. Last year, you didn't have a lot of expectation, right? Most people said at the high end you'd win 8 games. And instead, you win the West, you go to the SEC championship, you win a bowl game, you get to 10-4. And even that one got watered down a little with that loss to Texas A&M and then losing to Georgia by 20 in the SEC championship game. You could have been looking at 11 wins if you took care of business against A&M, but still, it was enough to you look at where you were coming off the 2 seasons you had at the end of the Ed Ogeron era, to get to 10 wins, to play for an SEC championship. That was good. And it led to all the expectation for this year, and you didn't meet them, flat out. You were number 5 preseason, the college football playoff. That was real. Like preseason, that was an attainable goal. We quickly realized that it wasn't, and 10 wins became your attainable goal. So if they get to it, yeah, it'll feel a little bit different. But it goes back to the consistency that they want to achieve, the consistency that they had in their greatest stretch of winning 10 games a year, where you can go all the way back to 2000 and run through the 15 years up through 2015, and you'll find recognized 7 10-win seasons in those 15 years. If you want to start in 05, that's where you really find your greatest stretch. You'll find recognized 5, really 7, but 5 recognized. And in all of those times, you won 3 national titles, you won 4 SEC championships, you played for another national championship, you played for another SEC title. You all know that, but that's the level of consistency that they're striving to, and that is important. to get to that. So I do think it's very important for LSU to get to 10 wins because despite the expectation being what it was this year, and I'm not excusing the 9-3, LSU should have been better than they were, specifically defensively. But despite that, to still get that with the misses in the portal that you had, that we just talked about, coming off of where this program was, having to rebuild when you take over 39 scholarship players. It's all the refrains we've heard and heard and heard. If you can win 20 games in your first 2 years, that allows you to hopefully build. The other thing it does is raise expectation even more. Because everyone's pointed to year 3 for Brian Kelly. We've all gone back through his times at different schools and looked at year 3. And that's when it's taken off. That expectation is going to be even more heightened here at LSU if they can get back-to-back 10-win seasons for only the 5th time in program history. Because then it turns the page to year 3, and there's going to be a lot of work to do. You're going to have to replace plenty, specifically defensively, and take those next strides. And that's where it becomes even more under a microscope. Like, for me, that's when the grace period's done. I know for a lot of you, it is this year because the expectation was just there. And everything that was happening in year 2 for coaches at LSU heightened it then. But you get to 10 wins again, which, again, I think is very important because it's a step toward the consistency that you've talked about building, that you once had, getting closer to that. The expectation is going to be raised, and the grace period is definitely over after that. That sets the bar. The second you fall short of 10 wins, second you go 9-4 or whatnot, hard questions start to be asked. We'll see how it goes. I think it's very important because it puts you toward that next step, and I think it does kind of matter in recruiting a little bit. You could say, look, we've pieced it together here to this point, had expectations, fell short of them. You can come help us meet them. That type of thing. You're the missing piece type of thing, on top of showing everything else that's possible, like championships and Heisman trophies. Championships are won. They're not given out. So this would be a step toward that. Doesn't mean it's a guarantee. We'll see if they can get it done. It'd be nice to see 10 wins in back-to-back seasons. Of course, that'd be the first time since 18 and 19. And the 19 team, that's your bar forever at LSU. All right, we'll grab a break, come back on the other side, give some final thoughts and a prediction on the Saints and the Buccaneers as they will tee it up and kick it off on Sunday. Can the Saints keep their playoff hopes alive? I'll give you my final thoughts on that game next, and as well as a prediction on LSU and Wisconsin to close out the show. AFR rolls on, the final AFR of 2023. Got 2 segments left next.
AFR.
Man, it's always a great time to get by Rouse's. If it's just that grab-and-go dinner option, maybe you need to run in and get a few grocery items. Maybe you're doing your weekend shopping for the entire week. No matter what it is you need, Rouse's can help. Maybe you're just stockpiling for that holiday party. You're having people over to your house. We have the Erica's family Christmas party, the Keller Christmas party. We host it every year at our house. And all of Erica's extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins, everything like that, all come over. And we love to host, and it's great. And Rouse's is great because they have great holiday party trays as well. So if you need the cheese trays or the fruit trays or the veggie trays or the sandwich trays, the drumettes, the mix and match, you do it all. It's there at Rouse's for you. Easy to grab and go or make your own. Give them a call before your holiday party, and all the spirits as well. You want great beer and wine and all of the spirits, they got it over at Rouse's. Remember, buy 4, save more. You buy 4 bottles of wine or more. The more you buy, the more you save. Allows you to try some really interesting wines. It's at Rouse's. This feels like home.
Life in Louisiana is like a run-on sentence. a poem that doesn't rhyme. Life is here, now. For life's moments, big and small, always there. The right card, the right care.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch on Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Saban office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Saban have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Would a couple that just came from a couples massage have any use for the massage?
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
We're brought to you by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana. Bluebonnet in Baton Rouge, Ambassador Caffrey in Lafayette, and online at theantiagingclinics.com, theantiagingclinics.com. You want to look and feel like your younger self, they can help at the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana. You know, I would often say a simple blood test can let you know if you're a candidate for hormone replacement therapy. But so often that blood test is so much more than just that. For example, maybe they'll find, elevated cholesterol levels or something else that could be an indicator of a bigger problem. Not to say that that happens often, but if it does, you want to find those things so you can be properly treated. And sometimes medical grade supplements are a great way to do that. For me, fish oils, Coritin, some other medical grade supplements are great for me, as I had some naturally elevated cholesterol levels that we've helped get in check. Maybe it's hormone replacement therapy, help you feel like your younger self again. Learn more online at theantiagingclinics.com.
So, final thoughts and a prediction here on Saints-Bucs momentarily. I will pass along note for the Cotton Bowl tonight. Ohio State wide receiver Marvin Harrison not going to play in the game, opting out. Not overly surprising. I think the more surprising thing is that it took him all the way to game day to formally announce that decision. No reason for Marvin Harrison to play in the game. Can't fault him. Wouldn't have faulted him if he did play, but definitely can't fault him for not. So no starting quarterback for Ohio State. No Marvin Harrison for Ohio State. Mizzou. Hey now, can Drink's crew get to 11 wins? I'm looking forward to that game tonight. I will definitely be locked in. All right. Saints and Bucs on Sunday from Tampa. We've talked a lot about this matchup going throughout the week. We've talked a lot about what it means for the postseason for the Saints. Quick refresh on that. Saints need to win their final 2 games, starting with this one on Sunday in Tampa, and then they need help. They need the Bucs to slip up and lose to Carolina. That would give the Saints the NFC South crown and a home playoff game. If the Saints lose to Tampa Bay, they are eliminated officially from postseason contention yet again. When you look at this game, it looks very similar on paper to the trip out west to LA to face the Rams last Thursday, where the Saints, I guess the only difference is you don't have the perceived momentum that New Orleans did going into that game against LA. But you had to go on the road to one of the coasts to face a team that was playing their best football. And we saw how that went. The Rams skunked New Orleans. I know the final score was what it was. It was nowhere close to indicative of how that game went. The Saints found themselves in a 30-7 hole and then did what they do, make it look closer than it was. It was one of their worst performances all year. Now, go on the road again to the East, now to the East Coast, and you face a team playing their best football of the season. And make no mistake, that's what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are doing. They've won 4 straight games. Baker Mayfield looks like he is about to lock up a contract there. Mike Evans could surpass a career total this year when it comes to touchdowns, a career best, late in his career now. And the injury report is not kind to the Saints, where you have no Marcus May still, obviously. You have no Marshawn Lattimore. You still have no Mike Thomas. And you have struggled mightily all season offensively. But in recent history against this Bucs defense, it has really, really, really been a struggle. Since Drew Brees retired, the Saints are only averaging 16 points per game versus Tampa Bay. In the last 3 games, it's 11 points per game. You have consistently got off to slow starts. You have never consistently found a way to move the football that results in points early in games. And I don't know why, when you look at the trends, and now you throw in the fact that Olave is hobbled right now with the ankle. He's going to play, but he even said earlier today he's still fighting through it. So he's hobbled. Rashid Shaheed's back from injury and has been great, taking the top off the defense, but you're going to need more than just 1 shot play per game to Rashid Shaheed for that to matter in a large scale. You had the 1 shot play to him against the Rams. That was your 7 in the 30-7 hole. And then there's the Alvin Kamara situation as well, where he's dealing with illness and is kind of a game-time questionable decision right now. Without Kendre Miller, who's likely to not play, you're just thin everywhere. That looks like a major struggle, because as much as you want to talk about the offensive struggles the Saints have had, the defense has been in lockstep, just hasn't been good. They've forced turnovers, but you haven't really been able to convert those in points. They haven't been in locksteps, and they've been getting off to the slow start as well. That's where the perceived momentum came from going into that game against the Rams, and now you've lost all that because it was another slow start by the defense, who, again, you're thin in that secondary, and you look at a guy like Chris Godwin, things are going to open up for him. Now you'll take Paulson Adebo and move him on to Mike Evans without Marshawn Lattimore. You'll have Alontae Taylor out there, Isaac Yiadom, but it hasn't materialized enough to feel anywhere close to confident in this ball game. I don't think, number one, the Saints can score with Tampa Bay. And number two, I think you're missing too many players at key positions, and or you have players hobbled or key players hobbled or questionable right now at key positions. So I think Tampa Bay wins the game, and I think they win it probably by at least 10 points. I don't particularly see this one being close, and that will end the Saints' hopes at playoffs for this year, and it will officially allow us to start having very serious and very real conversations about the future of the franchise if and when they are officially eliminated. And as I said, I think that does happen this Sunday in Tampa Bay. I like the Bucs by 10 over New Orleans. All right, we'll grab a break, come back on the other side, wrap up 2023 on After Further Review with a final thought and prediction on LSU and Wisconsin in the ReliaQuest Bowl. That is next on AFR.
AFR.
Glow Resources, complete employer solutions. Go to glowresources.com. That's GLO, glowresources.com. If you are a business owner, and as we head toward 2024, if 2024 is the year you're going to get out of the hiring rat race, you're going to stop throwing darts blindfolded, you're going to stop guessing and hoping you get it right, you're going to stop wasting so many resources tinkering and trying different things, and you're going to get it right the first time, then you need to call Glow Resources. Listen, Glow Resources, they don't work for the employee. They work for you, their client, the business owner, the employer. They're there to find you complete employer solutions. If you need skilled blue-collar labor, yes, Glow Resources can help. They have a white-collar division as well. So if you need, accounting services, if you need management, they can do everything from interviews to hiring, the entire process. It's Glow Resources. Visit them online at glowresources.com. GLO, glowresources.com.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $10,000 off MSRP on new 23 Jeep Grand Cherokee, $10,000 off new Jeep Grand Cherokee, and all new Bayou Automotive vehicles come with a 1 million-mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Yo, Jake here from my friends over at Community Steel Company located in Gonzales, Louisiana. The local place you can turn to for all of your metal building needs. Notice I said local, not Houston, not Dallas, not Atlanta, but right here in Gonzales. Visit them at their brand new state-of-the-art website at communitysteelco.com or pick up the phone and give them a call today to answer all of your questions on your metal buildings, roofing and sheet metal, and any other steel needs you or your business need at 225-647-2020.
Hurry into your local Acura dealer for the Season of Performance event going on now.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our number one product is always customer satisfaction. Visit us online at reliefwindows.com. Oh, by the way, we do shutters too.
After Further Review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
Wrap it up. Friday edition of AFR, a year's worth of AFRs. Musso filling in for Moscona. Moscona is back on Tuesday. We will have a full lineup of shows on Tuesday, of course, with the LSU game we're going to get to here momentarily on Monday, treating that like a game day. So no full lineup. Show's back. Full lineup on Tuesday, and then it's going to be back in the chair there to recap all of it. All right. Let's get you some final thoughts and a prediction. LSU, Wisconsin. We have talked about this game an awful lot here in 3 days. To cram game week into 3 days it entails a lot, and we've done it, and we've broken it down from every single angle. We've had the scene setter in Tampa. We've gone to the opposing media and looked at Wisconsin from that angle. We've talked Garrett Nussmeier. We've talked the co-interim offensive coordinators, defense, all of it. Here's the final spiel. LSU is a 10-point favorite in this game for a reason, or you would at least believe that LSU is a 10-point favorite in this game for a reason. On paper, LSU should roll in this game. More of their key players are participating. While obviously the best player in college football, and Jaden Daniels, isn't, and that does matter, everybody else is. When you look at Wisconsin, their best offensive weapon, Braylon Allen, not playing in the game. One of their best defenders in Jordan Turner, not playing in the game. So you have a key guy on each side of the ball out for them. When you look at what they've done offensively, it hasn't been great throughout. And it's been a transition. We talked about that yesterday with Bill Schmidt. Defensively, they've been able to muck up some games. But not being at full strength and going up against the number one offense in college football, minus a starting quarterback, how does that look? On paper, it should look like LSU rolls. So do they? Roll? I'm not so sure. And it's because of the defense. When LSU this year, when they have faced subpar offenses, think Auburn, think Mississippi State, they have rolled. Like, the defense has shown up and showed out. Could you do that against Wisconsin? Sure, it could happen. The difference here is in bowl games and bowl prep, you always have the longer time. Teams are able to rest up, get healthy, prepare for a lot of different other things. And normally that can lead to a buck in some trends. Where I'm concerned with Wisconsin is this. They have a veteran quarterback who is in his 6th year. And while, yes, again, I understand it hasn't looked great this year for him statistically in an offense that should favor his ability to throw the ball, like at SMU with Tanner Mordecai, where he was very good, over 70 passing touchdowns. But LSU secondary just hasn't been good. You've got the guys you knew you were going to have, like Toviano, Stamps, Jeremiah Hughes, those guys, and they've had time to prepare too. But the one area that Wisconsin isn't hurting, they still have a lot of guys available at receiver. Can Tanner Mordecai take advantage of that? He doesn't turn the ball over. That's something huge for them. I'm not as confident that LSU's defense, even though Wisconsin's offense has struggled mightily this year, can go out there and just shut them down. I think Wisconsin will score in this game. The other side of the coin is LSU's offense. And while we've talked plenty about fair expectation for Garrett Nussmeier, and I've made my feelings known on what I think the fair expectation is, now I'll tell you what I think he actually does, and I think he has a great game. I think Garrett Nussmeier is being handed the keys to a Ferrari with the weapons that he has. We'll see how long Malik Neighbors plays. Maybe he breaks the record and gets out of there. And you know what? I wouldn't blame him if he did. But the fact that he's going to be out there at least for a little bit helps Garrett Nussmeier. That's a first-round talent at receiver. Brian Thomas is a first-round talent at receiver. Mason Taylor is a very capable tight end. Logan Diggs has been huge for you in the running game when he's been healthy. When you finally were able to insert him there, that's when the running game outside of Jaden Daniels finally took off, where you were finally able to actually have some consistency. Garrett Nussmeier, everything there is set up for him to succeed. Yes, Mike Denbrock not being there, that does stink. But You heard Nussmeier talk about his relationship with Joe Sloan earlier. We played the cut on this show yesterday for you. The confidence that those two have, the familiarity that they have, the familiarity that Garrett Nussmeier has with all these weapons that we just went through, sets up for him to have a very big game. And I think that he does. And I hope that will ultimately jumpstart him into the era. So LSU, they need to protect the football. When Wisconsin has won games, they have taken the ball away. That has kind of been a hallmark. It hadn't been there for them as of late, but earlier in the year, that's been the one thing that they've been able to do well in their wins. Or I should say that has stood out in their wins. LSU does need to protect the ball, and Garrett Nussmeier needs to protect the ball. That's going to be huge. But ultimately, I think LSU wins the football game. I think Garrett Nussmeier has a very, very good day in his first start and leads LSU to the win. They get to 10 wins. I will take LSU by a little bit more than the 10. I think LSU wins this somewhere in the range of 13 to 17 points. Pull away late while Wisconsin lands some blows early, and the Tigers pull away late, get to 10 wins, and we'll see. Take the over, right? That's what happens in LSU games. Take the over, and they'll send us into an offseason with a victory. That's going to wrap us up here on After Further Review. We'll send you now into 2024. Appreciate everybody's hard work this week. Appreciate all of you tuning in as I held down the fort for Scone. He will be back on Tuesday to recap everything for the football weekend. The Saints and the Bucs, LSU and Wisconsin in the ReliaQuest Bowl. Set you up for the Tigers offseason and what's next with the Saints. That's going to be on Tuesday's AFR. Tune in then. Thank you for tuning in now.
AFR.
Mold Zero, now pure restoration. Same patented non-toxic dry fog treatment. If you got mold, think you might have mold, not sure if you have mold, mold can be in your walls. You don't even know about it. Pure Restoration comes in. You don't have to worry about moving furniture, pulling up carpet, any of that sort of stuff. They come in, they'll spray their patented non-toxic dry fog. Your home, office building, commercial building, whatever it may be, they're going to be more efficient than traditional remediation. It's going to cost you less as well. I love telling this story. There was an elderly woman who's a homeowner, had black mold on her ceiling, and she couldn't get a quote from anywhere that was less than $28,000. This was an elderly widow. Mold Zero came in, got rid of the mold for less than $5,000. Mold Zero is now pure restoration. Same company, same great patented non-toxic dry fog. They're general contractors, so they can do demolition and build back when you need it. They can take care of odor, sanitization. It's pure restoration. Pure-restoration.com. Pure-restoration.com.
Thank you, Acadiana, for over 56 years of allowing Corbell Toyota in Opelousas to take care of you and your automotive needs. Enjoy this holiday season with family and friends. From the Corbell Toyota family to yours, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
The importance of doing this fortified program and offering it to people down here is, number one, the only real chance you're going to get to do this is when you put on a new roof or build new. And through companies like HUDCO, who's kind of leading the way in this thing, it's going to offer the customers a huge advantage in the insurance market and the price of their insurance.
You know, we're not looking to make a fortune off fortifying. We're trying to give you a better product than our competitor at the moment. I'm trying to do something that he can. I'm trying to give you something better. So a lot of these insurance jobs, you're getting a re-roof, you're only paying your deductible. Let's sit down and talk about the fortified and let's see what it does to your insurance premium. You're getting a steal.
Yeah.
You're getting a brand new roof and a fortified certificate for your deductible, essentially. And I think we're rocking and rolling.